Third part. Chapter 41. Watching the battle live, another battlefield. Sofa. No, I am number one. Nowadays, are you so interested in being an audience? Helplessly, observing secretly, the live broadcast hasn't even started yet. I can't wait any longer. I'll go to the main battlefield to take a look first. Bai Xiao raised his eyebrows when he saw the people who had already entered the live broadcast room one after another before the live broadcast started. It looked like the momentum was pretty good. In the 10th round of PK, I feel like I can break through the siege. By the way, she also went to see the live broadcast rooms of several other players in this round of traffic pool. There were also people squatting there. Looking at this posture, it seemed that the popularity was no less than that of Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room. I don't know if it is to cooperate with today's tower defense battle, but all unauthorized live broadcasts of extraordinary territory construction are broadcast at the same time. This time point is the time point when the Dawn system is transferred from the frontal battlefield to the power of time and space. Since the live broadcast has not started yet, many people slipped away to the main battlefield to take a look first. On the main battlefield, the Zerg and Klein humans faced each other in the sky above a super-large desolate plain. The two sides were separated by an invisible barrier on both sides. Above the super-large desolate plain, a huge countdown is running slowly. The war between Zergs and humans has finally reached its most critical moment. 19. As the number was reduced, an extremely huge branch protruded from the void and grew on the barrier of the desolate plain. It grew extremely fast. In just a few countdowns, this branch would already densely rushing straight into the endless void. At the same time, a mysterious will seem to open its eyes from a deep sleep and cast its gaze on this corner. 3, 2, 1. The countdown is over and the war begins. The barrier of the plain was slowly opened, and the ordinary soldiers of the Zerg and human races fell downwards like dumplings, just to occupy a favorable terrain. In the desolate plain, it is not that there are no resources, but that the plain is not suitable for life to survive. But for the needs of war, the local resources of these plains certainly need to be utilized. The various insects of the Zerg race fell from the holes in the plain barrier like waterfalls, completely ignoring the various casualties suffered during the landing. The Zerg, who did not die after landing, quickly relied on their induction to find the Mother Emperor clan closest to them, and then began to perform insect frequency synchronization to complete the most perfect spiritual link. The Mother Queen let out a burst of spiritual waves, and a strange mud-like insect race began to dissolve itself one after another. Finally, it was laid on the ground like a carpet. It was obviously a barren plain, but a large amount of nutrients were robbed. A large amount of star power in the air was drained away. The female insects of the Queen Mother clan stepped onto the germ carpet one after another and began its command and construction. The human race's approach was completely different. The huge starship hanging at the top remained motionless, but the subships below separated from the main body and began to fall. When the subship landed at a certain height, it automatically separated into numerous small cabins, and landed safely at the place preset by each pioneer soldier according to the agreed trajectory. Subsequently, a large number of subships automatically returned to the main ship according to the set procedures. After landing, the pioneer soldiers climbed out of the cabin, and almost all of them summoned their own Dawn systems without any hesitation. Module-like blocks unfolded on the barren land. Various extraordinary buildings instantly covered the entire surrounding wasteland, eventually forming the scale of an extraordinary city. Any territory that can participate in the main battlefield has already developed on a large scale. Each pioneer has a different emphasis on the development direction of the extraordinary city based on his or her profession. In the teleport hall of the extraordinary city, lights lit up one after another. These were the mercenaries and adventurers who participated in this main battlefield battle. Most of them were combat workers. The war buildings of various extraordinary professions have also begun their violent operations. The Murloc hatchery of the shaman profession has begun to lay eggs, the arsenal of the mechanic profession has begun to produce war machinery, the naga of the priest, and the mage. The elemental body, the hunter's beast, the druid's tree. Even within the same profession, there are different directions for raising troops. Taking the shaman profession as an example, there are murloc shamans who are good at training murlocs, totem shamans who are good at laying out various totems, and evolutionary shamans who are famous for their dog gambling, and so on. Compared with the low-level Zerg troops, which were nothing new at the beginning, the human race can truly be said to have 100 flowers blooming. Because the desolate plain that should be used for war is too vast, the territories of the human race and the Zerg are staggered after landing. Some unlucky lords even found that they were surrounded by Zerg territory as soon as they landed, and they were immediately heartbroken. Fortunately, there is a teleport hull. If we really can't defeat him, we still have a way to escape. When one party is in trouble, all parties support it. All human territories that are still fighting will receive reminders from relevant teammates around them. As for whether to choose to assist the opponent, it depends on the specific combat situation. Once the territory of these pioneer soldiers encounters a dangerous situation, the Dawn system will come to help and move some of the Zerg in the battle to the 5 spacetime nodes around the Klein Plain, in front of the territory. This is also the source of the enemies that Yuya and the others have to face in tower defense. The shots in the main live broadcast room are all about big scenes, whether it's a swarm of insects jumping down like a waterfall, whether alive or dead, or a large number of squadron pods sending human pioneers to the ground. These are not ordinary P-class citizens. Scenes that can be seen. Immediately, the popularity of the main live broadcast room exploded, and the entire live broadcast room was almost completely stuck. This was in the face of the optical brain technology that had already entered multiple dimensions and had almost been eliminated. Network card concept. This shows that there are really too many people crowded into the live broadcast room this time. Bai Xiao just took a cursory look at the main live broadcast room and then exited the crowded main battlefield. She still prefers watching the small screen, and doesn't like to watch the dazzling super battle of the pioneers on the main battlefield. And with the complete opening of the desolate plain, the extraordinary territory of the human race has collided head-on with the Zerg probe troops. And this also means that this time the Infinite War has officially begun. Bai Xiao quickly switched back to Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room. As expected, the first shot of today's live broadcast was given to these Zerg who had just been teleported over. A red beetle is squirming back and forth in front of the camera with its face close to its face. Its pair of bright yellow compound eyes make it look extremely ferocious and terrifying. Chapter 42, Rounds of Competition, each using their own methods. The red beetle waved its sickle claws to clear the way, splitting all the surrounding vegetation and shrubs, as if to remove all obstacles that hindered the march. The icy cold light appeared one after another under the camera, and then there was a goosebump-inducing sound of footsteps on the ground, and he walked forward in a very rhythmic manner. Many P-level citizens in the entire live broadcast room have seen some pictures of Zerg on the optical network, but this is the first time they have actually seen Zerg that can move. Therefore, when seeing such cold biological weapons appear on the screen, everyone's hearts trembled, and even the speed of barrage under their hands was much slower. Is this the Zerg? It looks so curious. Weak, helpless, shivering but still want to watch. Who knows, family? How does it feel to watch the live broadcast under the quilt in broad daylight? I feel like the quilt tonight is full of red beetles. Sisters upstairs, this is what I'm like now. Get away, I'm a man, you are the sister, and your whole family is the sister. Although they also knew that with the development of the Anchor's territory, it would be very easy to get through the first round, but they still couldn't help but sweat for Ikuya Hano. The march of the Zerg was cold and emotionless, even though the number was small, but the aura of wanting to devour all living species for life evolution was not weak at all, and they were quickly approaching Yuya's territory. But, waiting for them was a rain of green bullets that had been prepared. In just a short moment, the red beetles and purple-bellied ringworms that had been striding forward just now had turned into corpses on the ground. Ugh! Ugh! Many people vomited in the barrage. Bai Xiao, who was so excited by the exciting picture, quickly turned on the image processing function to dispose of the 2 bloody corpse remains in a more beautiful way. Why do you feel that these bugs are so weak that they all fell down in less than a second? Isn't it because this Anchor's territory construction is so awesome? I saw several beautiful lords and some warriors next door, screaming on the arrow tower, killing red beetles, one by one. They didn't even have the guts to attack the Zerg head-on. But here, the first wave of Zerg didn't even see the shadow of the extraordinary camp, and they were all shot. This gap is a bit too big. You're kidding, my brother Ye's strength is something that some younger sisters can match? There are many P-class citizens bragging about Ikuya Hano in the barrage, especially the group of people who gained skills based on Ikuya's live broadcast and have become die-hard fans. The next scene is normal. A wave of Zerg is born, a wave of Zerg dies, a wave of Zerg is born again, and a wave of Zerg dies again, as if trapped in some kind of cycle. This 800-unit defense line is like a line of death that the Zerg soldiers can never cross. The style of the barrage in the live broadcast room also changed from so nervous, and the Zerg looks so vicious, it must be difficult to deal with, to yawn, boring, why are the Zerg still here? Send it off, it's boring, I actually want to see the anchor go into battle and fight with people. It wasn't until the 7th round that a new type of insect called weevil was added, which made the live broadcast room a little splashy. Just because this newly appeared Zerg actually crossed the 800-unit death line by a large margin. This is something that the new Fungli Mantis could not do before. This made the viewers in the live broadcast room his spirits were lifted, and he wanted to see how Ikuya Hano planned to deal with it. But soon, the audience was speechless, because the tough-looking weevil collapsed to the ground after being accurately shot by several swift arrows, ending its life. It seems a bit weak. This was the first reaction of the audience in the Ikuya Hano live broadcast room. But in fact, when Yuya reached the 7th round, most extraordinary territories had just finished their first round of resistance. There are even some territories whose development is really bad, or extraordinary lords who have given up on themselves. When they see that the situation is not good, they abandon the territory and start their escape journey. Some who are more lucky are able to escape this round of resistance in the hiding place found in advance. In the end, they are judged as a failure of resistance, and their extraordinary territory will be destroyed at once. If you are unlucky, the live broadcast room will be closed directly, completely announcing the end of death. The slightly stronger extraordinary territory has entered a higher level of resistance. In addition to paying attention to the movements in Yuya's live broadcast room, Bai Xiao also switched to the split screen at the same time to pay attention to the movements of the traffic pool in the 10th round. Several other high-profile anchors have indeed displayed their own style and characteristics, and have gained extremely high attention. The first is the extraordinary lord of the Treant Virtue School. He is actually a druid warrior. He originally wanted to upgrade by killing monsters. But unexpectedly, when he was exploring the plane, he discovered the remains of an intelligent life form, the tree man, and a large number of iron tree seedlings. Therefore, the player with the ID name, Brother, Save Me, decisively gathered these seedlings, infused them with natural breath, and began a farming life in another world. The iron tree seedlings he mainly cultivates are invulnerable and can be regarded as the natural nemesis of the Zerg. This man had already wrapped the entire territory around him with iron trees. When the Zerg invasion began, they still came in front of him to eat. After the saplings woke up, the huge and powerful branches turned into iron fists and fell down, almost it's a red beetle with one punch. This unique way of resisting naturally attracted the attention of a large number of netizens. Therefore, this person is also Yuya's main competitor in this round of PK. In addition to him, several other extraordinary lords in the flow pool used similar methods frequently. Some discovered the plane natives during plane exploration and began the journey of taming the natives. Confront the enemy with strength. Some have built extraordinary territories into unique environments and used the convenience of the surrounding environment to attack. Others used their awakened powerful innate abilities to personally go into battle and kill all the red beetles and purple-bellied ringworms like chopping melons and vegetables. It has to be said that with the huge population base here, Yuyi is not the only one who has had adventures. The killing speed of these people is not slow either. They have entered the 7th round one after another. Just looking at the speed, it is only a little bit faster than Yuye's. However, in the 7th round, after Weevil, a first-level top-level defensive Zerg with a porcelain white shell, joined, the resistance progress of each extraordinary territory finally slowly widened the gap. In Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room, after opening the new extraordinary building, Wind Arrow Tower, he still relied on his super firepower to suppress the enemy directly. And both the Iron Fist of the Treant and the guy who used the environment to hinder the Zerg began to lose their strength. To put it bluntly, in the extraordinary territory of Brother, Save Me, the Weevil's defense is difficult to be broken by the Treant, and it is also difficult for the Weevil to cross the Treant barrier and continue to move forward. If you fall into a stalemate for a while, you are likely to fall into a long-term bladder situation. And the one who took advantage of the convenient terrain, because he was a trick in his own right, was really helpless when encountering an insect like Weevil, with almost full first-level defense attributes. He was about to declare defeat, abandoned his territory and ran away. On the contrary, these two people, who rely on their own hard power to charge and fight with the strength of their tribe, do not show signs of weakness yet. This actually surprised Bai Xiao slightly. You know, in the 10th round of Traffic Pool, Brother, Save Me, who follows the Tree Human Virtue School has always been the one with the loudest voice. Unexpectedly, the Iron Tree, which seemed to be very restrained against the Zerg, would actually be so far behind after encountering an enemy whose defense attribute points were similar to its own. Bai Xiao turned around for a week and looked happy. Not to mention the effect of the resistance program, Ikuya Hano simply looked at the speed of resistance. This wave of entrance examination is considered to be completely stable. Chapter 43 Distress Signal, Help. The whizzing arrows once again brought about a powerful impact, opening a huge hole in the white porcelain-like elephant shell, and stabbed the young flesh and blood hidden inside to death. These wind arrows actually have extraordinary armor-piercing capabilities. This was beyond Yu Ye's expectation, but considering the powerful impact caused by the wind element, this ability seemed to be quite reasonable. A new wave of enemy troops is about to attack, and this attack on Yu Ye has reached its 8th round. Each round, more Zerg will be released to the battlefield. The types of Zerg will also gradually appear from the most common red beetles and purple-bellied ringworms to Fengli mantis and weevil beetles. As can be expected, they will be superimposed according to the number of subsequent rounds. There will inevitably be more and more new insect species joining the battlefield. These Zerg are all of the first level, and none of the attributes in the 6-dimensional body reaches 20 points. Even the weevils that seem to be particularly difficult to deal with are just small soldiers among the thousands of branches of the Zerg. But these Zerg races have mutated and evolved in different directions. If the red beetle is a relatively balanced insect, with no outstanding ability and no poor ability, then the purple-bellied ringworm has evolved a certain poisonous ability, the Fengli mantis has extraordinary agility, and the weevil beetle it mainly adds defensive attributes. After this, insects with multiple attributes exceeding 15 points will inevitably appear on the scene. At that time, it will be the real difficulty. And this is the real terrifying thing about the Zerg. Their endless numbers, as well as the numerous insect branches with various attributes and specialties, are enough for them to deal with any enemy in the infinite plane. It was the 8th round on Yu Ye's side, and the Zerg had not completely broken through the 800 distance units defense line, but on other battlefields in the group, it was not so easy. A yellow distress signal suddenly popped up from the system interface. Wish you a happy Qingming festival, I have initiated a transaction request from you. Wish you a happy Qingming festival, boss. Help, come quickly. We won't be able to withstand the third wave here. Yu Yi raised his eyebrows and said, Wish you a happy Qingming festival, this little lord has a memory. At his suggestion, she hid with several other small lords, preparing to merge to avoid the Zerg invasion. Moreover, these small lords have all applied for loans from Yu Ye, which means that their battlefield is defended by several level 2 warriors and a group of level 1 slaves. Even if there are several level 2 warriors, there is no way to resist. The third wave of invasion seems to have included Fengli mantis, right? This kind of extremely agile Zerg is still relatively difficult to deal with warriors who are far slower than it. You must know that even if it is shot continuously by P bullets, it can rush forward 150 units before it is completely dead. With a move of his hand, Yu Yi gave some casual instructions and asked Wu Lu to lead a group of archers and quickly go to the plain of Wish You a Happy Qingming Festival, with a batch of wind arrows to support them. Since it was a mission to lead people abroad, when Wu Lu entered the plain of Wish You a Happy Qingming Festival, a small window popped up on Yu Ye's virtual interface, live broadcasting the entire situation of Wu Lu's support mission. This is the first time Yu Ye has seen the conditions in other planes with his naked eyes. The territory of Wish You a Happy Qingming Festival is located on a piece of yellow-brown land, with a dry river bed on the side, and only a little clear river water flowing. Looking at it, it is surrounded by a circle of strange yellow trees, tall and numerous. Meters tall. I don't know how this plant can grow so tall in such a water-deficient environment. Around the territory, there are several lonely, arrow towers, standing. On these arrow towers, a total of 4 people, 2 men and 2 women, are operating the shooting ports and shooting towards the other side of the riverbed. It's just that this accuracy is really hard to complement. Behind the arrow tower are buildings such as the Lord's Cabin, Time and Space Tavern, Unreliable Fence, and some low wooden houses built around the territory. On the other side of the riverbed, more than 20 shirtless male humans were brandishing iron spears, forming a formation to attack the large number of red beetles surrounding them, going back and forth in a very intense manner. On one side, 3 tall and swift figures were charging forward. A large number of red beetles were swarming up, trying to crush the 3 of them with their numbers. In mid-air, several purple-bellied ringworms flapped their wings and flew in the mid-air. Black-purple saliva spewed out from their huge mouthparts from time to time, causing the 3 of them to rush to avoid each time. The most deadly thing was the fungly mantis wandering around the periphery of the battlefield. They were like the most dexterous assassins, swimming among a large number of zerg. They used their sharp knife-like forelimbs to cut a scar on the bodies of the 3 people at any time. The 3 people fought hard. Most of the bloodstains on the body were caused by them. As time goes by, the battlefield becomes more and more dangerous, and these 3 people may be killed on the spot if they are not careful. Seeing this, Wu Lu no longer hesitated, took out a big bow from behind, attached the arrow to the wind, pulled it into the shape of a full moon, and shot out with all his strength. There was a sudden sound of breaking through the air, and a fungly mantis seemed to feel a fatal threat. It shook its body and let out a shrill cry, trying to retreat. But it was still a step too slow after all, and its head exploded like a watermelon. The team of archers behind Wu Lu received the order and shot out together. Although the momentum and accuracy were not as good as Wu Lu, the dozens of fast arrows shot out also shot down several purple-bellied ringworms that had been carrying out harassment tactics. When the 3 strong men saw the arrival of friendly forces, a surge of energy suddenly surged from their bodies. The machetes in their hands fell mercilessly. The strength attribute exceeding 20 points was undoubtedly evident. The red beetle's carapace cracked like an egg, without a single crack. Enemy. Yu Yi no longer continued to watch the battlefield where the victory had been secured. Judging from the small-scale battle just now, these Zerg species would also cooperate. A group of first-level Zerg species, relying on their complementary abilities, actually overwhelmed higher-level enemies than them. Yu Ye thought for a while and finally decided to publish the information about this Zerg in the group. Some lords with a slower resistance speed may not have resisted to the 3rd round. Publishing this information to the group will also allow these small lords to consider whether they can continue to resist. Ikuya Hano, this is the basic information on the Zerg, Fungly Mantis, that will appear in the 3rd round of the invasion. Everyone should act according to their ability. Remember, rewards are not the most important, your lives are the most precious. Ikuya Hano, only by surviving can you earn more precious things, and then, repay your debt. Flower Girl is not bothered, I'm really worried. I didn't start my business halfway, but I collapsed in the middle. When I look back, I'm in debt. Your wife leaked air in the middle of the night, boss, is it so fast? It's already the 3rd round? Wish you a happy Qingming festival, woohoo, my 3rd round was almost injured, so I quickly applied for help. The boss sent a small team through the Time and Space Tavern, and stabilized the battle situation. Wish you a happy Qingming festival, thank you so much for saving my life. I will be satisfied if I can pass the third round. After that, I will work hard to make money and prepare to repay the loan as soon as possible. Wish you a happy Qingming festival. By the way, the third round is really difficult. The new Fengli Mantis is too fast. We have 3 level 2 warriors and more than 20 level 1 slaves. The 3 arrow towers are so strenuous, the little lord who is not as strong as us, think about it yourself. The other 3 minor lords under her ID also expressed their gratitude and made a note to work hard to get the money and repay it as soon as possible. Their warning naturally also caused a group of lords who had reached the second round and wanted to continue to rush for the third wave to retreat. There are only a few players and warriors in their territory. Even if the players' warriors have good talents, they can't say they can definitely defeat the native second-level existences. In fact, Wish You Happy Qingming can pass the first 2 rounds faster than them, which can already prove a lot of things. Therefore, under the persuasion of Wish You a Happy Qingming Festival, most of the territories in the group chose to give up, and finally stopped before the third round. Chapter 44. The real resistance has just begun. Ikuya Hano, in order to prevent everyone from recklessly opening the rounds and causing losses to the extraordinary territory, I will announce another data. This is the data of the new Zerg, Weevil, that will appear after the 7th round of resistance. Later, Yuya sent the attribute panel of Weevil to the group, and the defense value as high as 17 points caused a crowd to exclaim. Sad love, holy shit. It's just the defensive attributes and the protection of insect armor. It just stood there and let me cut it without doing anything, but I couldn't even cut it. Take out my big baby, are you kidding? You, a life player, still want to chop this thing? As a warrior whose strength attribute has increased to 14 points, I can only scratch this thing's skin with a machete. Cute face thief, Master Bao, stop scratching. By the way, aren't you a warrior? If you don't kill monsters at this time, how come you still have free time to send messages? Little farmer in the mountains, this depends on the pea shooter, sold by the boss. Currently, my territory still has 0 pressure. After a slight digression, the topic finally returned to Weevil. Even cold-faced Godslayer, who rarely speaks in the group, came out to speak, saying that this thing is very strong. He might be able to kill one of them alone, but if he encounters 2, he will have to fight. If you encounter more than 3, you have to turn around and run away. Fortunately, the huge mass of this kind of Weevil means that its agility will not be too high. It only has 5 attribute values, which makes it slightly slower than the running speed of ordinary people. Even if someone really can't defend it, they can still outrun it. Of course, the premise is that the Fengli Mantis accompanying him must be killed first. Cute-faced thief, although the defense is amazing, the agility of this Zerg is a flaw. If we can let it fall in the tunnel we dug, or be trapped by the trap of the hunter profession, it should be able to survive in the 7th round. Grinding past. Cute-faced thief, those of us in the first echelon can also try to rush into the 8th and 9th rounds. Although the number of Weevils in these 2 rounds will be more, we can still find ways to fight against it. The second echelon in the group, the best is to give up in the 7th round. Cute-faced thief is very pertinent. Almost all of these first-class players who can take the lead have this plan. Flower Girl is not bothered. Hey, if it really doesn't work, we can still ask the boss for help. A level 2 combat worker will definitely. It can break armor, you just have to attack a few times if you want to kill it. Yuya did not announce all the events about the Gale Wind arrows. With this kind of star-patterned arrows, Wu Lu's strength has reached a level similar to Mu Zhong's. In terms of the ability to kill Weevils alone, perhaps Wu Lu's even better. While everyone was talking in the chat interface, Yuya finally received the 10th wave of attacks. In the 10th wave of attacks, 421 red beetles, 128 purple-bellied ringworms, 35 Fengli mantises, 28 weevils, and 13 rock splitter moths have been released on the battlefield. Rock cracker moth. It's a brand new type of insect. But I don't know what kind of abilities this type of insect has. The space passage for the birth of the Zerg race opened, and the arthropod-like insect legs of hundreds of red beetles walked on the rock and soil, causing an unsettling sound. The white weevils in front of them were like giant open fans. The shield was marching in front, and around the red beetle, the yellow-brown compound eyes of the fungly mantis were dancing, interspersed in the march. The purple-bellied ringworm flapping its wings in mid-air is like the most loyal bodyguard, guarding the fist-sized brown moth that appears for the first time. Although they are not as big as the purple-bellied ringworm, their rapidly spreading wings can be rolled up easily. One wind pattern after another. It can be expected that as long as there are these rock-splitter moths that can roll up wind ripples, it will be several times more difficult to directly penetrate the weevils with arrows. As Yuya expected, when approaching the 800-unit cordon, only half of the first wave of nearly 1,000 P bullets hit the enemy, and the remaining half were either bounced away by the wind ripples rolled up by the rock-splitter moth, or be blocked by the body of the fan-shaped weevil. This wave of attacks only killed more than 200 red beetles and more than 30 purple-bellied ringworms. This is the first time that red beetles and purple ringworms have broken through the 800-unit cordon. In previous rounds, these Zerg units were basically given for free. Yi took a deep breath, looked solemnly, and ordered without hesitation. Full firepower. The wind arrow tower was ready. Wu Lu, who was returning to support the team, arranged for team members to enter the 3 pre-prepared shooting windows and start precise shooting. Under the arrow tower, a team member was guarding the wood piled in the shape of a hill, putting in wood raw materials from the arrow-making window under the arrow tower at any time. This wasn't over yet. The top of the level 1, Mage Tower, standing side by side with the arrow tower also lit up with red light, and Yi stared at it. Building name, Chi Yen Mage Tower, mutation +1. Building level, level 1. Building quality, excellent. Building life, 3500/3500, +500. Building materials required, the building is provided by modular technology. Building function, 1, consume 1 unit of star stone to activate a fire ray. Each fire ray will cause 600-1200 spell damage to a single enemy. After each ray is emitted, the tower tip needs to be silent for 30 seconds to recover and cool down. Newly added, 2 red flame mage towers can store up to 20, +10, star stones. Newly added, 3 red flame mage towers can enter the overload state and activate multiple star stones at one time. Exciting 3 star stones at the same time can activate Crimson Ray, stimulating 5 star stones at the same time can activate Fire Continuous Shot, and stimulating 10 star stones at the same time can activate Explosive Fireball. Note, overload will cause damage to the building and continue to reduce the building's health and blood. Once the health is cleared, the building will be completely scrapped. Red Flame Mage Tower is very powerful, but it also has major flaws. It requires overload to deal the strongest damage. This is why it is only rated as a sophisticated building, not a brave one. Architectural reasons. This is also the new building that Yuya just mutated today. The extraordinary building of the mage profession, Mage Tower, has 3 branches, namely, Arcane Mage Tower, Elemental Mage Tower, and Production Mage Tower. In order to resist the first round, Yuya once again identified a Mage Tower as an elemental branch, and carried out a mutation. This mutation did not summon Zhou Yu like Wang Zhaojun. The fire spell in King of Glory has been strengthened in a normal way. The strength of this extraordinary building is obviously not as strong as Zhaojun's Mage Tower. The most obvious point is that triggering its Blazing Ray effect requires the consumption of star stones, while triggering the Freezing Ray effect of Zhaojun's Mage Tower only requires 10 seconds of star power accumulation. The former requires resource investment, while the latter involves converting star power in the air. Comparing the two, one can easily tell which one is stronger and which one is weaker. There is no need to compare other functions. The reason why Yuya chose to open the Red Flame Mage Tower, instead of directly summoning Wang Zhaojun, was that he did not want to trouble the female NPC too early, and secondly, once it was opened, Wang Zhaojun would quickly enter a state of war, and then every 10A spell can be fired in seconds, and with Yuya's current wealth. There is no way to keep this extraordinary building with 1-star legendary quality open. Moreover, most of the ice spells are group attacks. There are obviously not enough enemies at present. It would be a waste to open this war building now. Following Yu Ye's order, Song Anjia led the team of mages from the territory and quickly got into position. A crimson light condensed on the top of the tower. A few seconds later, a light beam as thick as an arm streaked across the sky with extremely high temperatures, silently. The resting place fell into the swarm of insects. In an instant, the Zerg that were dozens of units away from the landing point suddenly stopped moving. Whether it was the weevil with high defense, the fast-fungly mantis, or the flying purple-bellied ringworm and rock-splitter moth, a red line appeared on the surface of the body. Split into 2 halves instantly. From the separated body, the snow-white insect meat was fresh and tender, and there was also a strange meaty aroma. Chapter 45 Progressive Rounds, Extraordinary Enlightenment. All the viewers in the live broadcast room could see clearly that before the red beam of light fell, several rock-split moths spread their wings and tried to join forces to roll up wind patterns and block the red beam of light. But how could the wind sweep away the light? A blazing ray was shot out, and the red beetles that were struck along the way were instantly cut in half by the light, and even the weevils with up to 17 defense points were split into 2 halves without any resistance. The wind that rolled up only slightly distorted the rays, and completely killed several rock-splitting moths that were overestimating their capabilities. Looking at the snow-white and tender insect meat, many viewers in the live broadcast room touched their stomachs in unison. It seems like it's time to eat at this point. What should I do? Am I crazy? Looking at this insect meat, I actually want to eat it. People can't, at least they shouldn't, okay, I admit it. I'm hungry too. What does this insect meat taste like? Are you brave enough to taste it? Barrage King looked at the direction of the live broadcast room, his eyes suddenly lit up, his fingertips waved on the keyboard, and he quickly started popularizing science. Actually, it's normal for everyone to feel like eating them. After all, these bugs, although they look a little more menacing, are genuine level 1 creatures. If you eat their meat for a long time, you have a certain probability of gaining attribute points. Seeing that, a newbie should humbly ask for advice, did not react, the Barrage King once again showed off his presence in the live broadcast room. Watching the audience in the live broadcast room transform into little fans and chant 666, this gave him a sense of pride in regaining his heroic power. He wished he could immediately jump in front of the person who stole his limelight last time. Rookies should humbly ask for advice, and have a good talk. You kid, you still dare to fight me? After he established his personal public account and started making video analysis of Ikuya Hano, the other party will no longer be his opponent. Thinking of this, Barrage King once again concentrated on watching the live broadcast room, and also turned on the full scene recording function, not missing any hot spots. With the addition of the twin towers of Wind Arrow Tower and Red Flame Mage Tower, the seemingly menacing Zerg troops in the 10th round once again fell 450 units away from the territory. Yu Yi finally breathed a sigh of relief. He was just 100 million seconds away from being approached by the enemy. Facing the upcoming 11th wave of Zerg, he decided to complete the invasion mission quickly. Red Flame Mage Tower is very powerful, but it also has major flaws. It requires overload to deal the strongest damage. This is why it is only rated as a sophisticated building, not a higher level one. The reason for the brave building. But in response to the current situation in the 11th round, Red Flame Mage Tower does not need to use the overload ability at all. If Wind Arrow Tower is stronger in terms of attack frequency, then Red Flame Mage Tower is specially designed to deal with powerful enemies alone. One shot can cause thousands of damage. Once it hits, the enemy will not even have a chance to scream. If there is none, it will completely turn into ashes. 12 rounds, 13 rounds, 14 rounds. More than 10 auras of different colors suddenly burst out from Yuye's territory. This was the extraordinary building he purchased at once and joined the battlefield at the same time. Along with the Knight's extraordinary building, Blessing Altar, the Shaman's extraordinary building, Basic Totem Pole, the Hunter's extraordinary building, Trap Hut, etc. are opened one after another. The increasing strength of the Zerg did not pose much of a threat to Yuye's territory. The most conspicuous among them is the basic totem pole, which is an extraordinary building made by the shaman profession. Like the mage tower of the mage profession, it can be divided into strength totem, healing totem, and swift totem. Petrified totem, 4 different directions. They can provide aura bonuses in 4 aspects: strength, healing, speed, and defense respectively. This aura not only affects all friendly units, including 1000 units, but can also affect all extraordinary buildings. Of course, their activation also requires the consumption of star stones. If Yuya hadn't made deals with a large number of life-type lords in the group before, he really wouldn't have much reserves of star stones. And now, he can finally have some luxury. The 4 major halo bonuses are the greatest for groups of pea shooters. The power of the shots becomes faster, the frequency of attacks becomes faster, and the ability to restore star power becomes stronger. This caused the rain of bullets fired by the pea shooters to turn into a green waterfall, and all insects that tried to get close were killed by the torrent of this waterfall. The rest of the extraordinary buildings are also playing their own roles. The Blessing Altar, built and cast by the level 1 knight profession, will release a baptism every once in a while, using the poisonous power brought by the black saliva released by the purple-bellied ringworm to purify and disperse. The Trap Hut of the level 1 hunter profession specializes in producing various small traps that can surround the enemy. The people of the escort team were placed one by one within the last 200 units of defense line to provide the final round of security for the camp. There is also an extraordinary building, Crystal Cave, from the druid that continuously absorbs the star power of the plane and turns ordinary stones into star stones. This is also an extraordinary building that Yuno recently swept up. On the Sugan system, this thing is particularly easy to sell. After all, it is a production-type extraordinary building, and it was sold out as soon as it was put on the shelves. Yuya was lucky enough to grab it 2 days ago, which also allowed him to finally have his own star stone output. Even though the number of enemy troops in these waves has increased, they are still unable to break through the blockade of so many extraordinary buildings. Instead, they are killed at a faster speed than the 11th wave, and they are destroyed like a torrent. Mu Zhong and others were watching the scene in front of them numbly. The number of Zerg that appeared now was so large that it made even his second-level scalp numb, but they were restricted to a distance of 500 units and there was no way to do it. Break through half a step. Can human beings be so powerful? Mu Zhong and Wu Lu looked at each other and smiled bitterly, but why were humans so powerful, yet humans in the Tianquan Plain were defeated by savage orcs? If the Tianquan Plain is filled with these powerful attack structures, then even if the wild boars really attack Tianquan, they will have to pay a much higher price than before. Yuya used this battle to teach them a truth that had been slaves for many years. The human race has never been weak. Wisdom and creativity are the foundation for the human race to stand at the top of the world in the endless plains. The 14th wave has newly added the Zerg, 6-winged locust. This Zerg is faster than the Fengli mantis, and has the terrifying ability to quickly devour wood spiritual plants and swallow small amounts of metal. The 17th wave has newly added the Zerg, goldenback spider. This kind of tank-sized spider with gold threads on its back. Its 8 spider legs are like blades. It can travel in various terrains. As a first-level spirit reaching 20 points, the Zerg can continuously eject spider webs to trap a large number of flying pea bullets. As soon as it appears, it brings a lot of trouble to Yuye's territory. As the rounds went up, insects with full single attributes appeared, and even Yuye's extraordinary territory began to feel a little pressure. Chapter 46. It doesn't matter, Zhao Jun will take action anyway. A long and narrow figure was like a reaper reaping in the dark night. It rushed to the front. The green pea bullets around it passed by one after another, but they could not hit the opponent's figure at all. Even the first level, Gale Arrow Tower, is also difficult to lock onto the opponent. Mu Zhong, Wu Lu and other second-level commanders who were sitting on the tower of the extraordinary territory changed their expressions when they saw this scene. Such body speed was not inferior to them at all, and even compared to legal professions like Song Anjia. The speed of this figure is even faster. Although they are all second-level single-attribute breakthroughs, when they were promoted to the second level, the baptism given by plane will also lead to their other attributes being strengthened. Although there were not many, they generally reached 16 or 17. Around 20 points, excluding luck and charm, a first-level creature that can crush them in this value, even if it does not reach the full value of 20 points, it will definitely not be too far away. In other words, for the first time in the 20th wave, a first-order Zerg with nearly full agility attributes appeared. No, not only is the speed close to full value, but its attack power is definitely not low either. Everyone, including the audience in the live broadcast room, could only watch helplessly as this highly agile Zerg wandered in the hail of bullets, quickly passing through the 800-unit distance defense line, and then breaking through 450 units, 300 units, and 150 units. And then quickly approached Yuya's extraordinary territory. This Zerg, which the system calls Sharp Thorn Sickle, ducks in front of the outermost pea shooter. A cold light suddenly appears. This pea shooter suddenly has its head missing. It originally wanted to continue. The head of the spitting bullet sprayed out a large amount of dark green juice. This cruel scene, coupled with the killer's disgusting insect head and tentacles, immediately provoked the screams of countless female viewers in front of the screen. The little plant that they thought was cute was actually killed by this enemy with one knife. But it was precisely because he had caught this attack gap that Wu Lu, who had already prepared his attack, blasted the insect's hideous head with a wind arrow, avenging the pea shooter on the spot. Fortunately, there was only one such sharp knife and sickle in the 20th wave. After being solved by Wu Lu, the rest of the Zerg were quickly solved with the help of many reinforced buildings. Okay. It's finally past 20 rounds. That moment just now scared me to death. Beat these S*******. Expletive. This user was banned for 30 minutes because his words were too violent. As expected, it exceeded 20 rounds. Now let's see how many rounds we can pass. I bet on 27 rounds. 27 rounds? I think it's a bit confusing. It's only the 20th round, and the territory has already begun to show damage. It's not that the anchor can't survive 27 rounds, but that if there is too much damage, after so many rounds, the territory will be damaged. Even if the extraordinary building is destroyed, this deal is really not worth it. What you said above is right. This tower defense does not mean that it is better to last until the end. It still needs to be controlled within a certain degree. While receiving rewards from the Dawn system, the loss of the extraordinary territory cannot be too great. No, why are they all pessimists? When I bought the bet, I bet for 35 rounds with full confidence. The people above are crazy. Do you know what 35 rounds is? Many ordinary local pioneers can't reach this number. How many days does it take for these blue star talents to develop? In my opinion, 25 rounds is the best. After seeing that the anchor, who had been dealing with it relaxedly and contentedly, finally began to show signs of wear and tear, people in the live broadcast room inevitably began to worry. Especially those citizens such as P who are free and wealthy, and who deliberately open the market in private, are even more anxiously waiting for the next round of attacks. It was at this time that the Dawn system and the live broadcast room simultaneously announced the number of Zerg troops in the 21st wave of offensive. The 21st wave of attacks: 921 red beetles, 578 purple-bellied ringworms, 214 fungly mantises, 106 weevils, 85 rock splitter moths, 37 six-winged migratory locusts, 21 golden-backed spiders, 5 sharp knives and sickles have been released on the battlefield. The illusory space channel suddenly opened, and the Zerg transmitted by the time and space power of the Dawn system were released one by one. This time it took several minutes just to release them. These Zerg rushed forward as soon as they were released. Just because the pheromones of a large number of dead members of the same race in the territory ahead are telling them that the target territory is in this direction. The woods around the territory have long been eaten up by these insects that are constantly appearing, and nothing is left. It is not known how these insects manage to attack and destroy the environment around the territory at the same time. Yuya breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that these bugs did not wait for the large army to gather and charge all at once. To be honest, until now, he is a little frightened by the Zerg, an enemy that seems to be endless. The Zerg is indeed the pinnacle group in the boundless plane, even without mentioning their powerful genetic modification, attribute evolution and other talents. Ability, this quantity alone is already the absolute number one among all peak ethnic groups. If these thousands of Zerg don't charge immediately, but press forward at once like a human army marching in formation, then Yi will be in big trouble in this wave. But even so, it is definitely not that easy to take over this wave of offensive. The last wave of troops that caused a lot of trouble for Yi included 5 of them. If there was a charge at the same time, even if Wu Lu could shoot accurately, it would cause trouble to the pea shooter. Small casualties. In Yuya's extraordinary territory, except for Zhaojuan's Mage Tower, which has not yet been opened, various other extraordinary buildings are also at full capacity. So, Yi no longer hesitated, came to Zhaojuan's Mage Tower, and gently pressed the open button on the Dawn system interface. At the same time, Wang Zhaojun, who was sitting on the top floor of the 3-story Mage Tower, slowly cast his gaze on Yi below, with a slight smile on his beautiful and cold face. She nodded and looked through the window of the 3-story Mage Tower. He quickly turned over and reached the huge ice blue crystal at the top of the tower. Before that, no matter how fierce the fight outside the territory was, her state was just like Bob and Dave, with a completely nothing to do with her, just hang up, look. Without any preparation on her part, ethereal chants began to echo in the territory. This was a language from the ancient East, completely different from the official language of the Human Alliance on the Dawn system. A series of fine ice blue spiritual lines condensed in midair. Frost suddenly fell from the slightly cold air, and the whole world began to turn white instantly. This is definitely not a spell that a level 1 mage can cast. This is a 3-star ice spell, Frost Nova. Chapter 47 What is a Legend? Zhaojuan's Mage Tower, Architectural Special Effects 4. Newly added, for new Ice Mage NPC Wang Zhaojun is added. She possesses the extremely powerful power of ice magic. However, she is limited by the grade of your building and cannot exert her full power. On the battlefield, Wang Zhaojun will enter a war state, quickly recall an ice spell below level 3 every 10 seconds, and randomly release it on enemy units. The first spell released when entering the war state has a spell consumption of 0 and does not require star power replenishment. The duration of this effect depends on the amount of star stones stored in the building. If all enemy units are destroyed, Wang Zhaojun will end the war state. Because the first spell effect when entering the war state does not require the consumption of star stones, it is obvious that the higher level spell effects are better. Among Yuya's 6-dimensional attribute values, the most worthy of boasting is his lucky attribute value of 9 points, which once again exerted its effect. Because at this moment, the spell Wang Zhaojun cast was Level 3 Ice Spell, Frost Nova. You can get a level 3 spell for nothing, and you can make a lot of money. Spell Effect 1, in this battle, increase the ice element affinity on the battlefield by +3. Can be stacked. Spell Effect 2, consumes the star power and ice elements floating in the air within a nearby 1500 distance unit to summon and form hundreds of star-shaped hailstones. When each unit of star-shaped hail hits an enemy unit, it will form a destructive explosion and cause 2000 points of magic damage. The explosion will produce 3 consecutive splash damage, and the damage transfer effect of each splash damage will be reduced by 25% level by level. And comes with a certain frostbite effect. What is the concept of 2000 points of legal damage? The little dragon cub, Big Mac, who has 4 racial talents, and has both strength and physique at level 1, max, only has 5,500 health points. This is already a top-level biological template of the first level, but it can only survive for a few seconds under such an attack. Most of these ordinary Zerg have less than 2,000 health points. More importantly, this is AoE damage, and the target is all enemy units of 1,500 units. In other words, there is no need to trigger the 3 splash damage of Frost Nova. The damage from the first Nova burst alone is enough to wipe out thousands of Zerg in the 21st wave at once. As hundreds of crystal-clear stars fell, gorgeous ice flowers bloomed on the entire battlefield's surface instantly. Thousands of units of Zerg were instantly frozen into ice sculptures with their splashing blood and exploding limbs. Even Yu Yi himself did not expect that the seemingly menacing 21st wave of Zerg troops would end so quickly. In an instant, no one in the entire live broadcast room posted any comments, and they didn't know what to say. The water friends who were arguing just now about how many more rounds can Yuya survive, were all as quiet as chickens. Especially water friends who are betting on as many rounds as they want. They all saw that the host's extraordinary building had basically been turned on. Friends who have been following Yuya's live broadcast room can count all the things that Yuya's extraordinary territory has not yet used. The first is the little dragon cub. After extensive research by netizens, this Big Mac in Yuya's territory has been recognized as definitely the best among the earthly dragon cubs, with at least one attribute reaching level 1 full attributes. The dragon race with multiple talents can completely kill Zerg individuals if it joins the battlefield. Even if this is just a cub. But who calls it the cub of a giant dragon? If the Zerg race focuses on the ultimate peak population in terms of numbers, then the dragon race is exactly the opposite. This is a race that relies on the power of individuals to reach the top. Therefore, in the opinion of water friends, relying on the little dragon cubs, maybe Yu Yi can survive a few rounds, but the Zerg also has an evolutionary branch specifically designed to restrain the dragon. If after that, the Zerg sends out a Zerg-like, dragon-eating insect, how should we deal with Yuya's extraordinary territory? Secondly, there are naturally the 5 level 2 commanders. Although their strength is not considered strong in level 2, they are indeed genuine level 2 leaders. If they go all out, they will definitely be able to achieve good results. Therefore, they estimated that Yuya's extraordinary territory could withstand around 27 or 28 rounds. As for the anchor, Ikuya Hano, himself, in the eyes of the audience, what he has shown so far is only a god-level summoning talent. Among the several summoned characters, one is growing plants on a farm, one is working as a bartender in a tavern, and another one is related to the Mage Tower, but looking at his soft and frail appearance, it seems that he is not capable of going to the battlefield. Look. Therefore, many fans, including Barrage King, and rookies should humbly ask for advice, are speculating whether this anchor's summoning talent can only summon production professions? If this is the case, then the talent score of Ikuya Hano will be greatly reduced. After all, this is still an extraordinary world that emphasizes personal force. It can only summon production-type summoners. It may be an advantage in the early stage of the territory, but by the time you will definitely suffer losses in the later stage. This is also the reason why many people are not optimistic about Yu Yi. So, when the 21st wave came, Wang Zhaojun sat on the top of the Mage Tower, waving his fingers, chanting Qingling, and casually hit the 3-star Frost Nova, which dumbfounded all the viewers in the live broadcast room. Just now I thought that this extraordinary territory was about to die, but it turns out that the anchor still has such a trump card, but it's useless? This is not the flash sale of the first wave, but the flash sale of the 21st wave. Looking at the lords who were built in the same batch as Ikuya Hano, most of the Blue Star territories that participated in this round of resistance have already ended their resistance. Most of them start to panic when they encounter the 3rd round of Fengli Mantis. When they encounter Weevil, they start to regret starting the 7th round of resistance. In the end, you can either choose to hold on or abandon your territory and run away. Even the mountain farmers, in Yuya's group, which was developing quite well and planted a large number of pea shooters, suffered heavy losses from the 6-winged locust in the 14th round, which was a Zerg that suppressed spiritual plants. Finally gave up the 15th round of resistance after going through hardships. For viewers who can go to other live broadcast rooms at any time, it is naturally easy to understand the resistance situation of each territory. Because of this, the instant kill in the 21st round was really shocking. The next several rounds almost became Wang Zhaojun's personal ice magic show. 1-star spells, Ice Arrow, Cold Breath, Frost, Freezing Ray. 2-star spells, Ice Armor, Icy Wisdom, Freezing Ray. 3-star spells: Frost Nova, Ice Spear, Ice Explosion, Ice Wings. I picked up spells one by one and threw them down like crazy for free. These spells, combined with other extraordinary buildings in Yuya territory, were devastating to the next 10 waves of attacks, and they were easily taken down. Everyone, what is a legend? Numb face. You know, he calls this legend. Tactical backup. Chapter 48 Yuya's Attribute Panel. Although Yuya had resisted for more than 30 rounds, in fact, the time spent resisting was less than 1 day. The main focus was an efficient and fast insecticide. Watching his own NPC Wang Zhaojun killing everyone there, his ice spells were so enchanting that no matter how many bugs there were on the other side, hail and ice crystals were all thrown down like heavenly flowers. Yuya was holding the spirit rice to make a freshly baked lunchbox. Watching this wonderful performance, I couldn't help but open my mouth and took a bite, and sincerely praised, "It tastes so good." But the few second-level commanders on the side looked like they didn't think about tea or rice. Even though the lunch box made from spiritual rice was fragrant, it couldn't bring back their souls. The commanders who should have been very proud to see that their family's territory was so powerful were now feeling a little disappointed for some unknown reason. Thinking of learning that the Zerg were coming to invade a few days ago, the 5 of them were as nervous as anything, and they were all ready to save the little lord even if they sacrificed themselves. But they didn't expect that the little lord was just joking and killing so many Zerg without doing anything. These extraordinary buildings are too impressive, aren't they? If they had been the ones to fight, they would have been drowned in the sea of insects by now. Although they are at the second level, their star power will be exhausted. Although their physical attributes are relatively high, they will also feel tired. Compared with the extraordinary building, the deep frustration made the 5 second-level commanders feel quite uncomfortable. It's as if they are not needed. Yuya could more or less guess at their thoughts, but he didn't take them seriously. In his opinion, this is a hypocritical disease and needs to be cured. What is most important in another world? Talent is the most important. Extraordinary buildings can be rebuilt after they are destroyed, but people cannot be resurrected after death. Hey, there seems to be something wrong with this sentence. After all, this is an extraordinary world, and the wonder drawing, Himtianchi, obtained by Yuya can achieve the effect of resurrection. But no matter what, under the influence and education of Blue Star Huaxia in his previous life, in Yuya's eyes, the importance of people still ranks first. This is true for both the human race in the Boundless Plain and the Chinese compatriots in the group. After all, compared with these Zerg who look very careless at first glance, at least having the same appearance can give him a greater sense of identity. Unless it is necessary, he will not easily let his subjects go out to fight casually. What is the purpose of those extraordinary buildings? Naturally, it is to protect human beings. But this will involve another issue, that is, whether the territorial residents who have been protected by the territory throughout the entire process will become greenhouse flowers. Once they are separated from the protection of the territory, they will be unable to adapt and eventually quickly survive in the cruel environment. Die. In order to avoid such a situation, Yuya still made a cruel decision and made an extremely important decision. Even if it is not a real battle, at least let all the people in the territory see blood, and fight against the Zerg. Fight hard, even if you are not the main force, you must not lose the courage to fight the enemy. In this regard, he is somewhat different from the mainstream thinking of the human alliance. In the cognitive judgment of the Dawn system, citizens such as P should be well protected, and then work hard to give birth to more extraordinary and talented people for mankind. Therefore, before version 14.0, New Human Observation Record, they rarely even paid attention to some news related to extraordinary beings. Not only because most of them cannot use the Shuguang system, but also because they live in a world wrapped in an information cocoon, and everything they see is beautiful. As long as the Dawn system still exists and as long as the human alliance has not been destroyed, they can naturally continue to live a carefree life. But what if? If one day, the enemy breaks through the extraordinary territory, they will be a group of lambs to be slaughtered, with no resistance at all. Even the lowest level red beetles, they may not have the courage to stand up and resist. They who claim to be civilized and advanced may not even be as good as these ordinary people in the Tianquan plain. This is the same for Yuya himself. He currently has many first-level extraordinary buildings in his extraordinary territory. With the talent of building empowerment, he can be converted into attribute points, eliminating the special attribute of luck. In addition, the attribute points that Yuya can now randomly allocate are enough to bring his single attribute points to the full value of level 1, and there are still many overflows. Considering that the resistance was imminent, before the Zerg invasion, Yuya thought about it again and again, and finally decided to increase his constitution from 9 points to 20 points. This is also the first full attribute value among Yuya's first-order 6-dimensional attributes. With the remaining unallocated attribute points, he simply focused on agility. After all, if he couldn't defeat the enemy, he had to at least be able to outrun the enemy. Therefore, Yuya's attribute panel finally received a gorgeous upgrade before the battle, so that he could accumulate values before he was ready to fight in person. Name, Yuyi. Race, human, alien. Occupation, architect. Level, level 1. Status, normal. Health, 3500/3500, plus 2200. Strength, 13. Spirit, 9. Agility, 13, plus 4. Physique, 20, plus 11. Charm, 9. Lucky, 9. Talent, 1, Building Mutation, A. This talent can randomly mutate buildings to create new functions. The more advanced the building, the lower the probability of success. 2. Building Empowerment, A. For each different 1-star extraordinary building in your extraordinary territory, you will receive 1 attribute point that can be randomly allocated, until the upper limit of the attribute value of that level is reached. This talent is currently at level A and is currently only effective for level 1. Skill, Pain Blocking LV1, Passive. Even though Yuya's attribute values have improved, the statistics are very good, even surpassing some warriors with good talents, but in fact, Yuya himself is still a scumbag at the moment. Having power and mastering it are not the same thing at all. For example, Yuya clearly has 20 points of physical attribute value at the moment, but these improved attribute values only simply add some blood to him, and do not bring him other benefits. But if these physical attribute values are combined with the toughness, skill, the player's overall endurance can be improved. If combined with the stone skin, skill, more physical resistance can be improved. This is why many warriors' health points, blood volume, are obviously not as high as Yuya's, but they are flesh than Yuya's. Acquiring skills is the way to fully develop your own attribute values and talents. The understanding of these skills requires players to constantly practice and apply them. This aspect is the specialty of the warriors. Their talents allow them to comprehend related skills faster, and finally convert them into powerful combat power. The purpose of Yuya joining the battle is to overcome his weakness in this aspect, gain experience from the battle, and master some fighting methods. Who says architects can't go to war? Look at him, Yuya, an architect. He first goes to the battlefield to kill a few bugs to practice his skills, and then he understands the skills. Chapter 49 Traffic Pool Upgrade, Group Supply. Up, up, up. Bai Xiao, who was holding a small handkerchief in one hand and the mouse in the other, exerting all his strength, couldn't help but whisper softly. Looking at the soaring index in the background of Optical Brain, people who didn't know it thought she was crying for a rise by buying a stock that had just been listed and guaranteed to make a profit without losing any money. Finally, when a sudden yellow curve on the photon screen broke out of the encirclement and directly killed the daisy of the previous one, it gloriously reached the top of the throne. Yeah. Yeah. Bai Xiao jumped up in excitement and threw away the white handkerchief in his hand, overjoyed. Ikuya Hano, this is the real fortress. How strong is the cow wall? Nyobi realized that she was a lady who considered herself to be gentle and well-educated, and had never been in the same league as a sexy bee **ch like Gao Li. She couldn't help but curse. It's so awesome that if she were to go to a nightclub in her current state, maybe she would dare to compete with Gao Li and directly compete for the title of King of the Dance Floor. Then, with the stunned gazes of the opposite **x, he pointed at Gao Li and taunted her, saying word by word, B***ch is just hypocritical. After Nyobai realized that she had begun to plan for future signings, he saw that Ikuya Hano had officially skyrocketed, and as a signee and agent, she had officially reached the pinnacle of her life. From then on, he lived a shameless life of buying a villa near the sea and bringing luxury cars to the home of a male model. Family members, who can understand the kind of anchors under their own reserves who rush up little by little in the 10-round traffic pool competition, then step into the 20-round traffic pool, and finally kill the competitors who have accumulated 20 rounds. How refreshing does it feel? If you pass 10 rounds of the flow pool, it is a college entrance examination. At most, you have skipped a grade. Yuya is preparing directly from kindergarten to take the college entrance examination. As for the 3 or 2 kittens in the previous 10-round traffic pool, they have basically given up. The big brother of the Blue Stars who had tamed the natives to help resist, in the 13th round, because of the casualties in the tribe, after thinking twice, gave up the next round of resistance. The person with the most heroic personal combat power fought until the last moment. Although it did not last more than 14 rounds, he single-handedly killed so many Zerg. Looking at his satisfied look, I am afraid that his skill, understanding and proficiency have improved. Not a bad development. On the contrary, Brother, Save Me became Yuya's second place in the flow pool in the 10th round. He persisted until the end. His iron tree formation blocked the Zerg at the periphery, and then relied on the iron tree. Its characteristics of high attack and high strength slowly began to wear down the opponent. Yuya has reached the 13th round, and he is grinding the 8th round. Yuya has reached the 30th round, and he is only in the 13th round. The main thing is a Moyang worker. Looking at this posture, when Yuya's side is over, his side may still be fighting. However, this, Brother, Save Me, is about to encounter the same test as the little farmer in the mountains. That is the Zerg, 6-winged locust, which specializes in suppressing spiritual plants. It will appear in the 14th round. The audience in his live broadcast room is not very optimistic about this. In fact, his live broadcast room is also very lively. At this time, many people's territories have ended fighting, so all the spare traffic naturally flows into those extraordinary territories that are still fighting. This is also the reason why Yuya can cross the flow pool for 10 consecutive rounds at one time. Holy shit, what is this? Is this the 33rd round? I've been in and out of so many live broadcast rooms, and this is the first time I've seen the 33rd round. Brother, you are paying attention to something wrong. Shouldn't you pay attention to the fairy sister in our live broadcast room who is as beautiful as a flower, as beautiful as a fish and a wild goose, charming and powerful, omitting the 1,000-word essay? I'm sorry, it's my fault. Then I'll do it again. Holy shit, what is this? He's been doing 34 rounds in just such a short time. With such a beautiful young lady, I decided to follow and collect it. Star eyes, wipe saliva. The large influx of viewers from other live broadcast rooms were either impressed by the extraordinary territories resistance rounds, or attracted by Wang Zhaojuan's continuous casting of spells like an ice and snow goddess. Naturally, I wanted to watch more after watching it, and was eventually converted into a loyal audience of Yu Yi, contributing to the popularity of the live broadcast room. But at this moment, Yu Yi was secretly complaining, not because of anything else. It's because the consumption of star stones is too great. Zhaojuan's Mage Tower, as a legendary, extraordinary building, it is powerful, but its power also comes at a price. Starting from the second spell used by Wang Zhaojun after turning on the war state, the calculation is based on the frequency of releasing a spell every 10 seconds. Level 1 spells generally require the consumption of a complete star stone to trigger, while level 2 spells range from 3 to 20 stars, and level 3 spells can easily cost hundreds of star stones depending on their power. Therefore, the star stone reserves in the territory are being consumed at an alarming rate. Even though Yuya's territory has Druid's 1-star extraordinary building, Crystal Cave, it is producing star stones all the time. Even though Yuya has a large number of life players who are in debt and are using star stone resources to pay off their debts. But it's still not enough. Fighting a war really costs a lot of money. If it hadn't been for the fact that Miss Wang Zhaojun was so fast at clearing out bugs, advancing for more than a dozen rounds at once, and allowing Yu Yi to see the results, he might have been unable to bear the urge to stop. From the current point of view, the legendary buildings are really terrifying. As long as there are enough supplies, Yu Yi even doubts that she can push a transcendent building all the way to 50 rounds, which is absolutely easy. Even if it is only 1 star, its powerful power has been fully demonstrated. Seeing Wang Xiaojun getting more and more excited on the battlefield, his cold cheeks were stained with a light blush, like a tipsy apple, and he looked even more attractive. The forgotten spells in her memory were recalled one by one, making her want to try them all. This is different from MOBA games like Honor of Kings, which only have 3 or 4 skills, but have many, many skills. As for the problem of high consumption, Wang Xiaojun was not aware of this at all. And, could that be a problem with the legendary architecture? If the warehouse is not full of production materials, then it is obviously a problem of the Lord's ability, right? Yu Yi looked at the territory bill and trembled a little. My NPC is having fun, but what can you know, as the Lord, do? Of course I dote on you. Is it possible that he was released? Yu Yi immediately gritted his teeth and sent a message in the group. Ikuya Hano, scatter the wealth, scatter the wealth. Collect star stones in large quantities. The price is based on the unit price on the Shuguang system. There is no upper limit before all the gold coins are consumed. It is first come, first served. Until I finish tower defense. Later, Yu Yi posted a new screenshot of $1 million deposit, and all the life players in the group were so envious that they almost laughed out loud. Chapter 50. If you don't kill the big dog now, when will you wait? Big dog owner. Everyone in the group can naturally see that this screenshot is completely different from the last one, and the number above has increased by 1 million. As Blue Star people, everyone had the same starting point and similar situation when they first traveled here. Now that they have taken off, no matter who they are, they all have pink eyes, to some extent. If other people were so rich, many people might still have dark thoughts such as hatred of the rich, but Yu Yi helped many people overcome difficulties during this resistance, and proved it with his actions of his indispensable role in this group. 497 people fought with ginseng, and 497 people survived. The people who died in this group were the 3 unlucky warriors who went to kill the monsters at the beginning. Other groups around Klein's Plain also had to experience this resistance. During this resistance, their groups also suffered more or less casualties. After all, the conflicts that happened in Yuno's group will also happen in other groups. Tower defense in this war came so suddenly, and the extraordinary territories around Klein's Plain did not take long to develop. The imbalance in the proportion of life and combat classes is likely to lead to some miserable small territories that cannot even withstand the first wave of Zerg invasion. Those territories with better development gathered a large number of warriors who fought until the very later rounds. With this huge gap between rich and poor, if Yu Yi hadn't stood up strongly at the first opportunity, then similar things would have happened to this group. But when the millionaires in the group spoke up and even offered targeted poverty alleviation by buying and giving away, who else would be dissatisfied? Without Ikuno's advanced funds, organization, command, and rescue, would the result of 0 deaths, 0 injuries, and all survivors be possible? Many people ask themselves, if they get this million in deposits, what else can they think of doing besides installing walls? But Yu Yi installed it on the wall and made people feel grateful. Such people are rich, and to be honest, they are really not jealous. Because Yu Yi's get rich first is really to drive get rich later. Of course, as long as everyone understands this kind of heartfelt remark, don't say it out loud in a disgusting way. We are all human beings and need to be shameless. When it's time to gather wool, you still have to do it. When it's time to secretly scold big dog owners, you still have to scold them. If they don't kill the big dog owner at this time, they won't be able to bear the honorific title of big dog owner. Unlike the audience in the live broadcast room, the members of the group who could not see Yu Yi's live broadcast more or less speculated how the boss of the group made so much money. Some people say that this is because Yu Yi has an entire indigenous tribe that is helping him produce materials and then sell them to the Shuguang system. With so much labor, he can naturally make money. Some people also say that Yu Ye may have been born in a good place and harvested the relics of an ancient civilization, which allowed him to take off instantly. Of course, most people still speculate that the talent Yu Ye awakened may be related to money. After all, there are many strange and eccentric talents awakened by Blue Star people. For example, Very Silly and Naive, who has always been famous as a bully in the group, has always claimed that his talent is S-level, waste utilization. If what he said is not false, it is true. Hey, it seems that I said nonsense. But no matter what, Yu Yi is now ready to disperse wealth and collect supplies. How can the people in the group not plunder a handful of wool? Basically, all the life players in the group are in debt to Yu Yi. Just to pay off the debt early, they also have to do their best to search for the resource, Star Stone. The life-type players have to pay off their debts, but what about the combat-type players in the group? Naturally, they will not let go of this opportunity to make extra money. Just because the warriors have no output, everyone is a pauper. Therefore, it was obviously the time when everyone was most tired after resisting the last round. But when Yu Yi gave the order in the group, everyone immediately took action quickly. The life-type lord who had discovered the Star Stone mineral in his own plane quickly recruited miners from the group. Those idle warriors naturally hit it off and started a mining plan, with a steady stream of real estate. The Star Stone was produced to supply Yu Ye's extraordinary territory. Even if the Star Stone mineral is not discovered, other life-based players also have their own tricks, which is to purchase the level 1 Druid extraordinary building, Crystal Cave, from the Dawn system. This is an extraordinary building that specializes in producing Star Stone. What should I do if I don't have enough money? What are you afraid of? Isn't it Yu Yi who is lending money here? These life-type lords first used Yu Ye's money to purchase the Crystal Cave, and then allowed Yu Ye to own the extraordinary building for a period of time. During this period, all the Star Stone output belonged to Yu Ye. When the time comes, the ownership of Crystal Cave will be officially attributed to the local extraordinary lord. Isn't this a good condition for free prostitution of extraordinary buildings? If it is not a first-level extraordinary territory, it is not appropriate to build too many. Crystal Cave, this extraordinary building will seize a large amount of star power around the territory to condense star stones, affecting other extraordinary buildings and the cultivation of the territorial residents. Yu Yi wished he could build 10 or 8 of them at once. A group of 497 people, 497 efforts are gathering together. Yu Yi is very busy, looking at the transactions concluded on the Shuguang system from Bob's Time and Space Tavern, watching the millions of deposits being deposited bit by bit consumed. However, Yu Yi sincerely felt a sense of accomplishment. His extraordinary territory has been able to resist the Zerg until now, and it has definitely not relied on his own strength. Without the collective support of these people, even if Yu Ye had an extraordinary building with 1-star legendary quality, he would have been unable to build a building without straw, and the resistance would have been over long ago. But now, how far can Wang Zhaojun, who has no limit on the supply of star power, lead his extraordinary territory to? He is also looking forward to this. Floating in mid-air, her icy blue hair flew wildly in an anti-gravity manner from day to night, but the girl did not feel tired at all. Yu Yi even felt that only Wang Zhaojun, who walked out of the Mage Tower, had such a lively and vivid expression, instead of just living on the top floor of the Mage Tower and looking at the blue sky in boredom all day long. The blue and white mage's robes rustled in the strong wind, and when the ice crystal staff was waved, streams of ice crystal light hit the ground, wiping out all the Zerg that tried to escape. The corpses of the Zerg were spread out on a layer, and they were quickly frozen, and then another layer was immediately spread out. If it weren't for the lush greenery around it that reminded everyone, just looking at the scene in front of them would make people feel as if they had traveled to a polar world covered with ice and snow. There is a faint smile on Wang Zhaojun's elegant and beautiful face, as if she is a goddess walking out of the ice and snow. She is so beautiful that she can only be seen from a distance and cannot be blasphemed. Under the quiet and soft moonlight, a translucent shield suddenly appeared in front of her, as if to isolate her from the world and no longer be polluted by the world. Yu Yi was stunned when he saw this familiar scene. Isn't this the shield that automatically generates when Wang Zhaojun leaves the battle in the game, King of Glory? Why does it appear here? At the same time, Sugan's system released new information in a timely manner. Your subject NPC Wang Xiaojun rediscovered the lost talent, Frozen Heart, during the long battle. This talent is Wang Xiaojun's exclusive talent. The ice spell she created that she had forgotten will be picked up bit by bit and returned to the legend of the Boundless Plain. NPC Wang Xiaojun's heroic journey has officially begun. Chapter 51 The Eye of the Mayfly and the Insect Frequency are in sync. The Hero's Path. Yuye recalled the relevant description of the legendary building, Xiaojun's Mage Tower, which mentioned that Wang Xiaojun was limited by the grade of the extraordinary building and was unable to exert his full strength. And this so-called Hero's Road may be his way to unlock his own strength step by step. Yuye couldn't check the specific situation carefully at this time, because the extraordinary territory at this moment had reached its true limit. As the rounds improve again and again, the strength of the Zerg that joins the extraordinary territory has reached an extremely terrifying level. One-horned soldier ant, whose strength attribute has reached the full value of 20 points at the first level, and comes with the skills, giant strength, and instant explosion. The physical attribute reaches the full value of 20 points at the first level, and comes with the skills, hit resistance, static recovery, and stone armor, grouper. The agility attribute reaches the full value of 20 points at the first level, and comes with the skills, wind speed, and air barrier, crying wings. The specific strength of these Zerg races can be compared horizontally with the warriors in the same group. All the warriors in the group participated in the resistance, and easily defeated many enemies in several rounds. But this is not because the Zerg are too weak, but because the red beetles, purple-bellied ringworms, wind-living mantises, and weevils are just the blank slate units in the Zerg. Although they have different numerical values, they are not outstanding, and these are all bugs without any skills. Therefore, even a weevil with a physical attribute that can reach 17 points will be easily killed by the warriors slowly grinding it down. When the value is full, if the Zerg wants to improve the strength of its arms, it can only start with skills. If Zerg such as red beetles and purple-bellied ringworms are blank slate, ordinary Zerg, then these Zerg with numerical values and skill panels are definitely the elites of the first-order Zerg. If these Zerg appear alone, although their number of skills is not as good as that of human warriors, their high attributes can make up for this shortcoming. In other words, an elite Zerg can compete with an ordinary B-level talent in the group. Warrior. But the Zerg appear in groups. In the 50th wave, there are hundreds of such elite Zerg alone, not to mention thousands of ordinary Zerg. This is definitely a mind-numbing number. And when the 51st wave started, a Zerg with weird eyes appeared on the battlefield. Both Yu Yi and the entire live broadcast room who were always paying attention to the resistance suddenly looked solemn. Just because this is the top existence among the First-Order Zerg clan, Eye of the Mayfly. While having full spirit and agility, it also carries 4 to 5 skills at the same time. Name, Eye of the Mayfly. Race, Insect. Attribute, Spirit, Wind. Level 1. HP, 500 of 1500. Strength, 7. Spirit, 20. Agility, 20. Physique, 11. Charm, 4. Lucky, 5. Racial talent, 1. Gene tree. When the Zerg is produced, it will strictly follow the direction set by the Brother's Nest, to grab attribute values, skills, and talents, and grow into a real Zerg war weapon. 2. Mutation evolution. When the Zerg devours and evolves, there is a partial chance that a new Zerg species will be born, with new Zerg talents. When the evolutionary direction becomes stable, it will be officially encoded into the Zerg gene tree, becoming a stable Zerg unit that can be copied and produced in large quantities. 3. Brood will. All Zerg will obey the orders of Brood, there is no possibility of betrayal, and will do whatever it takes to realize the instructions of Brood. Skill 1. Insect Frequency Synchronization LV1, with Ephemera Eye as the center, covering all the Zerg within 3,000 units around, allowing them to receive the unified deployment of Ephemera Eye at a common frequency. 2. Mental Disruption LV1, passive disrupts all spell attacks directed at Eye of the Mayfly, causing them to deflect to surrounding friendly units. This spell attack will be judged When the mental attribute value is lower than ephemera I, the probability of successful interference is 95%. When the enemy's mental attribute value is higher than emergency I, the higher the attribute value, the higher the probability. The lower the interference success rate. 3. High-frequency vibration LV1, ephemera I, vibrates its wings at an extremely high speed, keeping itself in an unpredictable, phantom, state at all times. In the phantom state, ephemera I has 3 false clones. You can switch the location of its true body at any time. 4. Wailing howl LV1, ephemera I, emits an infrasound wave covering 3,000 units all around. All enemy level 1 units will receive the attenuation effect of Spirit -5, and will affect all friendly Zerg units. Spirit +3 buff effect. Note, when the mental value is less than 5 points, negative effects such as dizziness, vomiting, and fatigue will be triggered. This is an attribute related to the First Order, ephemera I, that can be retrieved from the Dawn system. When Eye of the Mayfly appeared in the 51st wave, Barrage King announced all the information about the Zerg race immediately, once again getting ahead of rookies should humbly ask for advice. As long as one such Zerg appears on the battlefield, the overall combat power of the Zerg will be doubled. Without looking at anything else, just by looking at the description of the skill, Insect Frequency Synchronization, you can know that when Eye of the Mayfly is present, all the Zergs present will make protecting it their first priority. The Zerg, who originally had no rules and only had a simple numerical advantage, will instantly become experts who know how to march and form troops. Therefore, the spiritual Zerg with the talent of Insect Frequency Synchronization are undoubtedly the top existences among the Zerg at the same level, such as Brain Worm and Parasite Crab, fall into this category. And Ephemera's Eye has also been formulated with 2 life-saving talents by Gene Tree, whether it is mental interference to block spell locking or high-frequency vibration phantom effect to block physical attacks. Both of them are given to it. Survival on the battlefield provides a certain guarantee so that it will not die too easily on the battlefield. Sure enough, the moment the 51st wave of ephemera Eyes appeared, all the Zerg who were confused and wanted to charge directly stopped immediately, and quickly gathered around ephemera Eyes, one by one, and began to form a formation. Stand up. Next to the void passage, one Zerg fell from it, but suppressed the instinct to kill and joined the queue in an orderly manner. Eye of the Mayfly did not rush to attack, but hovered in the air and stared coldly at the extraordinary territory on the opposite side. As a top-level Zerg, it already has part of its own spiritual consciousness. It can feel that the battlefield opposite is filled with a large amount of flesh and blood of its own race. It is waiting patiently for all the Zerg to be in place this time, and then launch a real general attack. Chapter 52 In the Name of Anger. The cold air is biting and sharp. A 3-meter-long ice crystal spear was instantly constructed in front of Wang Zhaojun. She stretched out her slender white fingers a little further away, and the spear whizzed past, flying straight towards the eye-shaped Eye of the Mayfly. Eye of the Mayfly, how can it be so easy to integrate all the Zerg troops and launch a general attack? Do you really think that the human race is stupid and let its plan succeed? Without saying a word, Wang Zhaojun greeted Eye of the Mayfly with a level 3 spell, Ice Spear, on his face. Ice Spear skill LV1, consume a large amount of star power and active ice elements on the battlefield to condense an ice crystal spear. During the throwing process of the ice spear, it will cause 1,500 points of magic damage to enemy units along the way, and cause frostbite, slowness effect. The target hit by the ice gun will directly cause 8,000 points of single spell damage and 2,000 points of penetration damage. After learning the specific information about this spell, Yu Ye's eyes lit up. Is this, again? Wang Zhaojun can instantly cast a first level to third level spell every 10 seconds in the war state, but from a probability perspective, the higher the level, the fewer the spells, and the lower the probability of random access, so he can be in such a tense situation. In this case, the level 3 Ice Spear skill was randomly reached again. Perhaps it was Yuno's lucky value of 9 points that came into play. If this shot hits, even a little dragon cub with a first level max physique will be instantly killed by one shot. Any talents and skills that restore blood and armor will be useless as long as they are killed before they take effect. This ice crystal spear is undoubtedly heading towards the Eye of the Mayfly. Obviously, these NPCs who don't talk much on weekdays are actually smart. The moment the eye-shaped bug floating in the air saw the ice gun condensing, its slender hairs stood up, and its 20-point spiritual attribute told it a message. If you are hit by this gun, you will definitely die. Feeling the intense sense of crisis, Eye of the Mayfly let out a mournful cry, and silent fluctuations rippled around it. Mental disturbance has taken the lead in making the determination. The result of the judgment is of course a failure. The probability that Eye of the Eye can interfere with this attack is less than 5%. Eye of the Mayfly, Didn't it come to invade a level 1 extraordinary territory? Who can tell it why it still fails in the judgment when its level 1 attribute points are at full value? Forgive it for being a small first-level insect. It has never seen a higher-level spell in its life. If it could recognize that it was a third-level ice spell, it would not have such doubts. But at this moment, its brain the size of a soybean cannot allow it to think too much. If it can't figure out a way to deal with it, then it will only die. Insect frequency synchronization was activated, and a glimmer of light suddenly flashed in the eyes of each Zerg. A large number of red beetles were stacked one after another, quickly forming the first giant insect wall. The weevil followed closely behind, and the white weevil shells were put together like a white umbrella shield, forming a second layer of protection. Finally, there is the grouper with full physical attributes and 3 skills: hit resistance, static recovery, and stone armor. Other Zerg with insufficient protection were not idle either. Crying wings surrounded the air and released a series of air barriers, trying to hinder the advance of the ice crystal spear. The rock splitter moth rolled up a whirlwind to try to disturb the locking of the ice crystal spear. With just a thought from Eye of the Mayfly, all the Zerg began to take action. Under the influence of the skill of insect frequency synchronization, although they were thousands of individuals, they had only one will: manipulate. These quick-moving, cannon fodders successfully made all protective preparations before the ice crystal spear arrived. The next second, the ice crystal spear collided with the insect wall. A large number of red beetles shattered into ice crystal fragments and fell down, without even blood splashing out. The ice crystal spear was also stunned by its violent charge, but it still penetrated into the insect wall easily. Immediately ushered in is the second insect wall. The white weevil shell is like an umbrella shield, but the 17-point defense power does not play the protective role as imagined. The moment you touch it, it makes a crisp sound like an egg shell breaking. Just when Yuya thought that the ice crystal spear would move forward in an indomitable way, and also knock down the groupers on the next layer with one blow. A thin layer of petrified armor covered the bodies of the groupers layer by layer. After a short period of growth, they quickly formed from the surface of the groupers. Stone armor. This skill not only has a good magic resistance effect, but is also immune to huge physical impacts. The powerful penetrating output of the ice spear was poured into the surface of the stone armor, but the invincible ice crystal spear was greatly hindered. The piercing force that relies on kinetic energy to advance has been consumed in the previous 2 lines of defense. The weak ice gun cannot penetrate the last line of defense. The strong cold air bursts out and spreads a large amount of frost on the surface of the grouper. After all, it was a level 3 spell, and even the elite Zerg, known for their protection, died in just 2 seconds. But the dead grouper was like a tough rock, blocking the ice gun from making any progress. It's like being stuck on the insect wall and unable to move. A trace of human luck flashed in Eye of the Mayfly's eyes. Just when it thought it had escaped a disaster, the star power and ice elements that formed the ice crystal spear began to tremble violently. The new 10 seconds have arrived, and Wang Zhaojuan's next random level spell, Ice Explosion, has also arrived quietly. This is clearly another level 3 spell. It can only be said that Yuya's character exploded in this round, triggering 2 level 3 spells in a row. The moment Eye of the Mayfly senses danger, it immediately vibrates its wings at a very high speed and begins to retreat. The next second, a majestic breath burst out from the thick insect wall. The tall, insect wall, that was originally punctured with a big hole by the ice gun, suddenly collapsed, and a large number of dead red beetle and weevil corpses fell like rain, with the corpses of a few grouper beetles scattered among them. The appearance of these mutilated corpses showed horrific wounds penetrated by ice crystals. Ice explosion technique. This blow was enough to kill almost all the Zerg that built the insect wall. Only a dozen groupers were seriously injured and were still struggling on the edge of death. However, this insect with extremely tenacious vitality did not completely give up hope of survival. It lay on the ground and quickly absorbed the star power in the air, using static reply to adjust its own state. Eye of the Mayfly. Seeing this scene, its entire eyeballs suddenly turned red. It has extremely high wisdom and obviously has the advanced emotion of anger, but this makes it stand out from countless Zerg races. Emotions can also bring disadvantages to it. The moment he saw his kindred being slaughtered, Eye of the Eye could no longer hold back the anger in his heart and let out a whining howl. For all friendly Zerg units within 3,000 units, the Spirit +3 buff aura will be applied. The spirit of enemy units will be reduced by -5 attenuation effect. Suddenly, an invisible infrasound wave floated out again. Yu Yi, who was standing on the tower watching the battle, suddenly felt his head sinking, and the realization began to blur. He quickly shook his head, forcing himself to return to normal, but he still felt feeling groggy, as if suffering from a serious illness. In the entire extraordinary territory, except for Yu Yi and the 5 second-level commanders, all the slave citizens were attacked. According to the standards of the Dawn system, almost all of them are P-class citizens, with an average attribute of only 5 points, and a few with excellent mental attributes may reach 6 or 7 points. But under the attenuation effect of Spirit 5, there is not much difference between 5 points and 7 points. When the invisible ripples passed through 3,000 units and spread in this direction, all the slaves in the range burst out with blood from their mouths and noses, and their bodies softened and slowly fell down, not knowing whether they were alive or dead. Seeing this scene, Yu Ye's eyes suddenly turned red. He did not expect that his idea of letting all the people try to participate in the battle and not become flowers in the greenhouse would be realized in such a tragic way. Thinking back to these slaves who cautiously stepped into their extraordinary territory for the first time, thinking back to them struggling to enunciate words one by one and learning the Chinese language, thinking back to their smiles from the bottom of their hearts when they gained freedom and ate the spiritual rice. Thinking back to them in their own a scene where everyone gritted their teeth and silently went to collect sword thorn seeds after giving an order. Maybe it's because sensibility is dominated by reason, or maybe it's the chaotic impact brought about by Spirit 5. A wave of hot blood in the name of anger went straight to Yu Ye's forehead. He took out a big sword that he had received from Sad Love, and jumped off the tower without saying a word. In the panic of Mu Zhong and others, with a look on his face, he was heading towards the Zerg that had suffered heavy losses. And behind him, a baby earth dragon that was only about the size of Yu Ye's calf, opened its big eyes, tried to look fierce, and strode towards Yu Ye's direction. When Mu Zhong, Wu Lu and the other 5 people saw this, they gritted their teeth and jumped off the tower one after another. Looking at the Zerg on the other side who had suffered heavy losses but were still being sent continuously from the space channel, they stood resolutely behind Yu Yi. They had made up their minds a few days ago, and now was just the time to fulfill their promise. Chapter 53 The only way to reach the top 100. In fact, at the beginning of the 51st wave, the popularity of Yu Ye's live broadcast room had already reached its peak. The blue star anchors who could persist to this level without losing were 5 near the Klein plane. Within the spacetime node, there are already very few. Even if you include some local first-level pioneers who have just started to develop, there are no more than 100 people. However, most of these local pioneers who can persist until now have capital support behind them. Therefore, these people are also nicknamed Internet Princess and Internet Prince by citizens such as P. There are also a lot of people in their live broadcast room, but most of them are ordinary people who want to see Barbie's fantasy castle style or see what the Lord's cabin in Gundam style looks like. And these 100 people have basically booked the top 100 with the highest resistance round for the level 1 extraordinary territory. If they make it to this list, they will definitely receive a reward from the Dawn system. Ikuya Hano's live broadcast room here can be regarded as middle and lower reaches at best. After all, this is competing with the Internet Princesses and Internet Princes. Their extraordinary city is backed by local capital and is prone to resisting at every turn. Over 100 rounds is simply trivial. Even in order to avoid attracting stronger enemies due to the high territory score, all the high-level bodyguards went out to escape through the teleportation hall, leaving behind all who resisted were very powerful, but they would not greatly increase the Dawn system rating of extraordinary architecture. This kind of list competition is really unfair to the grassroots people. Therefore, among the many lists in the Dawn system, the most valuable list is still the Transcendence Round list, which is the number of rounds in which the enemy's score is higher than the extraordinary territory score, but still defeated by the Lord ranked. This list will also be the list with the highest rewards. However, it is precisely because Yuya was born from the grassroots and has reached this point without additional support, especially since he is still from another world and has only been able to develop in less than 10 days, many people will be curious about what he actually does. How did you get to this point? The addition of so many buffs naturally attracted a lot of free traffic from P-level citizens. Of course, Bai Xiao is partly responsible for this. After all, titles such as Shocking, An Extraordinary Territory XXX were all generated by her as a back-end manager. If this traffic is cheated in, it will be reluctant to leave. Especially when they saw the beautiful Lady Zhaojun showing off her power and beating up the Zerg, both men and women were impressed by this gesture. New viewers, if you don't understand, just ask, why is there such a beautiful young lady in his territory? Do people from other worlds give wives as gifts after traveling through time? How brave upstairs. That is obviously the wife of everyone in the audience. Yes, this is my wife too. The phantom limb instantly stood up. Are all girls these days so bold? Shivering. He cast 2 level 3 spells in succession and killed thousands of Zerg. Such an achievement immediately caused a sensation in the live broadcast room. After all, who doesn't want a wife who is both beautiful and powerful? My wife is so handsome, I love her so much. Dueling. Many viewers had not had time to post similar barrages to the public screen with laughter. The next wave of Eye of the Mayfly counterattacked, allowing these P-level citizens to see what the repressive power of the peak group is. Just a high-level skill of wailing and howling directly wiped out all the ordinary people in Yuya's territory. You know, no matter how weak P-class citizens are, they are still classified as level 1 existences. They hold machetes and go to the battlefield. Even if they can't do anything else, they can use their skills and put some effort into killing a few red beetles. Therefore, when they saw the slaves in Yuya's territory falling down like wheat, with blood flowing from their faces, the citizens such as P in the live broadcast room undoubtedly thought of themselves with a sense of empathy. Once they go to the battlefield, this is likely to be the outcome. Even with advanced skills, they cannot resist for 1 second, and they will be KO. In Yuya's extraordinary territory, there is a bug level being like Wang Zhaojun who can crush weak insects. The Zerg also has level 1 clearing skills, which not only knocks out all the level 1 territorial citizens to death, but also level 1, P shooter. The spiritual plant is also within the attack range of its wailing howl. Yuya's resistance to the early rounds relied entirely on the hail of bullets sprayed by a large number of P shooters. The strength of these first-level spiritual plants is not strong, but their bullets are fired at a high frequency and are easy to grow. The Sea Tactics against the enemy camps, Insect Sea Tactics, formed Yuno's strongest line of defense in the early stage. But in this terrifying Spirit 5 group Halo, they with an average spirit of only 7 points also suffered heavy losses. They all fell to the ground one by one, without any resistance, and could only watch the Zerg approach. Before the audience in the live broadcast room could recover, Yuyi on the other side had already jumped down from the tower, holding a large sword that looked like something real, and began to demonstrate the charge of an angry lord. Behind him, there was a dragon cub, 5 second-level commanders, and the mighty and oppressive Zerg in front of him, even if thousands of them died, forming a strong visual impact. The entire live broadcast room exploded instantly. Countless barrages flew across the screen of the live broadcast room. Some people question why Yuya, as a summoner magic profession, rushes forward to die. Isn't it enough to let the young lady who has always shown her power to use a few group AoEs similar to Frost Nova? Some people also think that at such a huge disadvantage, they should abandon their territory and escape with their little sister. The 51st time was not enough, at least to save their lives. After all, the time and space power of the Dawn system has a time limit, and these Zerg will be sent back sooner or later. If the extraordinary territory is gone, it can still be rebuilt. If the life is gone, then there is nothing. Some female viewers who couldn't accept it didn't even dare to watch anymore. Instead, they covered their eyes and just listened to the sound. Even Bai Xiao, who had been paying attention in the background, couldn't help but feel his heart in his throat. Yu Yi, who was in the anger, was completely unaware of the various behaviors of all living beings in the live broadcast room. He only has one thought in his mind right now, and that is to kill the disgusting-looking Eye of the Mayfly across from him. Although he was debuffed by Spirit -5, he was not really stupid. The information about this kind of Zerg given by the Dawn system is very clear. Wail and Howl is a level 1 Halo-type skill. This skill does not use time effects. As long as the casting unit remains alive on the battlefield, it will always be effective. Stay until the end of this battle. The cooldown time of this kind of Halo skill is usually very long, but just using it once is enough to support this emergency eye to finish the offensive and defensive battle. Moreover, under the influence of the insect frequency synchronization of Ephemera Eye, the remaining Zerg units will display extraordinary combat power when combined with different Zerg units. Based on the current situation of Yuya's extraordinary territory, there seems to be only one way to win this wave of offensive. That means you have to kill this annoying Eye of the Mayfly first. Chapter 54, The Cub Clears the Way, the Mage Escorts. A faint khaki star power covered the surface. Big Mac wrinkled his nose fiercely, and his big eyes stared at the 800-unit Zerg regiment that had begun to approach the territorial cordon. According to previous resistance experience, at this time, the pea-shooters will begin to burst out the first wave of bullets. But obviously, it is impossible for the wilted shooters to reproduce such a scene again. In other words, large-scale Zerg will step through this cordon unscathed. The little dragon cub stared at the opposite side. The first thing he saw was the numerous red beetles that seemed to be killing them endlessly as the cannon fodder vanguard. Behind him were the few remaining weevil beetles under the ice explosion technique. They were all the white umbrella shield was opened, and Zerg with outstanding strength such as Fengli Mantis, Golden-backed Spider, Sharp Sword and Scythe stood coldly behind the umbrella shield. In the midair, there are mainly 4 types of insects: purple-bellied ringworm, rock splitter moth, 6-winged migratory locust and songwing. Among them, the songwing is the most conspicuous, with an air barrier open all the time around it, protecting it. Flying Zerg in itself and a small area around it. Yu Yi looked towards the enemy army, and he couldn't even see the end. Under the control of the advanced Zerg, Eye of the Mayfly, these Zerg advanced and retreated in an orderly manner, forming an array. They were not as easy to pay as before. Yuya's eyes were twitching, looking uncertainly at the arrogant-looking Eye of the Mayfly, in midair, thinking about how to defeat this damn insect. This battle seems to have a huge disparity in combat power, but it is not without a chance. Although our current combat power is not much, it is not bad if we take a closer look. Let's not talk about the bug-level Zhao Jun. A random spell attack in 10 seconds, even if it is only a random spell of level 1, can cause considerable casualties, not to mention that under Yuya's 9 points of luck, a group AoE of 3 will burst out from time to time. Level spell. Not to mention the crushing numerical values of the 5-second level commanders, they can defeat many enemies with one. If they have some powerful skills at hand, they can kill insects as easily as chopping melons and vegetables. The little dragon cub, which is a first-order peak creature, has talents that can be called unlimited physical endurance such as Source of the Earth and Earth Walker, as well as max-level dual attributes of strength and physique, which is enough to defeat all the Zerg races. Not to mention that Yu Yi, a superlord with no attributes or skills, but an extremely pale face, was standing by to cheer them on. Yuya called for everyone to form a circle, and when the Zerg regiment pressed forward menacingly, he briefly laid out combat tactics. I have the following 3 points to say about this battle. Regarding this battle plan, the little dragon cub listened with great interest, and even when Yuya mentioned the key point, he nodded his triangular dragon head in agreement, and a glimmer of light flashed in his big eyes, which was regarded as recognition of Yuya's actions this time. It was placed in the most conspicuous position in the plan. Go for it. Burger. Yuya touched its head, called its nickname affectionately, and then pointed at the enemy. The khaki star power covered the entire body surface of the earthly dragon, and the hamburger shrank into a small ball, like a crystal-clear diamond drill. 2 small claws scratched the ground and dug hard, and hundreds of units rushed out in an instant. Distance. The skill, Rampage, is activated. Rampage LV1, sprint forward 500 units in a straight line, causing 1,500 points of collision damage to all enemies along the way. The enemy's hit will also have effects such as knockback and stun, and will also cause a certain amount of damage to themselves. Damage. Although Big Mac is small and golden in color, its running speed is not slow at all. The earthy yellow stream of light collides violently with the advancing Zerg core. Big Mac is like a drill, tearing open a gap in the formation of the Zerg army without any rules. As long as it is hit by it, the Zerg with a fragile body will directly turn into flesh, even if it is a weevil or grouper. The Zerg with this kind of higher system could not stop it from flying backwards, falling to the side, and finally became dizzy and unable to get up. Just after a wave of sprints ended, the little dragon cub shook his head to slow down a little, and then came another familiar, Rampage. This kind of skill that can cause damage to oneself has a very short cooldown time. Ephemera Eye's pupils shrank slightly, and the looming dragon aura made it feel slightly uncomfortable. Even though it is already a high-level Zerg in the first level, it still feels a strong sense of oppression in front of an extraordinary creature known for its individual power such as a giant dragon. The dragon cub in front of it is by no means an ordinary creature mixed with dragon blood. The Earth Dragon is a truly pure-blooded Earth Dragon. If it were an ordinary earth-walking dragon, Eye of the Mayfly wouldn't take it seriously. Although it was a bit tricky, they were still easy to deal with as they only inherited part of the dragon race's talents. But if it is a pure-blood dragon, no matter which branch it is synonymous with power and terror. Just like now, even if the baby Earth Dragon has not yet mastered skills such as breath and dragon pressure from its blood, it has completely disrupted the Zerg formation with just one Rampage. What's even more frightening is that this is an earth-moving dragon cub that is famous for its battery life, protection and other abilities among many dragons. As long as it has its feet on the ground, the racial talent will give it a steady stream of vigor and star power. In addition, the skill of Rampage has a short cooldown. As long as Big Mac wants to, it can continue to sprint endlessly like this. Eye of the Mayfly, the purpose of entangling the formation was naturally defeated by this move. Did you see it? This was Yuya's original intention when he taught it to keep hitting trees. What's even more frightening is that none of the Zerg species present can break through this kind of earth-walking dragon cub that has high attack, defense, and recovery. Even if it is a sharp knife and a sickle, it is just scratching the itch of the Earth Dragon. Eye of the Mayfly, it can be said that I am extremely helpless at this time. It is precisely because of the huge disadvantage in dealing with giant dragons that the Zerg race has to spend huge costs to develop a branch of dragon-eating insects that specializes in hunting dragons. In order to obtain the source of this mutation and add it to the Zerg's gene tree, the dragon and the Zerg became mortal enemies. But who can tell it why it encountered a purebred dragon when it invaded the extraordinary territory of the human race? Eye of the Mayfly flapped its wings and flew high, but did not panic. The name of Earth Dragon is very domineering, but for it that can fly, it does not pose much of a threat. As for the ordinary Zerg that were collided and trampled to death under the ground, no matter how many died, the Zerg nest would continue to produce a steady stream of food without any cost. But just letting it collide is obviously impossible. In just a moment, Eye of the Mayfly thought of the optimal solution to this situation. Following its shrill chirping, a large number of purple-bellied ringworms fluttered their wings in midair and clung to the little dragon cub's body as if they were desperate. One was killed, and then another one was killed. A large amount of purple-black saliva sprayed on the crystal shell of the dragon, and then the purple-bellied ringworm clung to the dragon without hesitation. The purple torrent quickly wrapped up the Big Mac that was still trying to collide, and the purple-bellied ringworms on the periphery flapped their wings in unison, trying to lift the Big Mac directly. Once the limbs are off the ground, that will be the time when the Earth Dragon is at its most vulnerable. Yu Yi, who understood the opponent's tactics, sneered. The eye of the eye was indeed the best way to deal with it, but did he forget that the Big Mac was not a Zerg fighting alone? There were other people behind it. An extraordinary territory of support. The wind and snow in the sky began to drift again, and Wang Zhaojun, who was located in the rear, once again released a new spell. This time the random spell was 2-star Frostfall. A large amount of water vapor overflowed from the air and adhered to the wings of all the flapping Zerg in midair. The wings that were supposed to be light and transparent instantly increased in weight, and the flying Zerg's wing beat speed slowed down, and it gradually became unable to fly. The purple-bellied ringworms that had just lifted the ball-shaped Big Mac suddenly lost their balance and fell heavily to the ground. A figure wrapped in earth-yellow crystals boldly emerged from the spherical insect corpse, and once again launched its specialty, Rampage. Chapter 55, Rogue Tactics and the All-Army Pressure. The Big Mac, rescued by Wang Zhaojun's 2-star Frost Descent, once again continued its journey of collision without hesitation. Bugs hit by it will either die or be injured. It's obviously only the size of a small puppy, but when used with all its strength, it can even knock away insects several times larger than it. To be honest, this skill, Rampage, is not a Halo-type high-level skill like Wailing Howl. Humans, demons, orcs, undead, etc., and even smaller Zerg have a chance to understand and learn this skill. However, whether a skill is powerful or not always depends on the user it is paired with. The power of Rampage lies in the user's confidence in their physical fitness. The powerful kinetic energy drives them to rush towards the enemy. Both sides will be affected by the collision. This is actually a way to injure the enemy 1,000 times and injure oneself. 800 skills. Ordinary humans or other alien races simply cannot bear the dizziness caused by such a collision and the impact on their own bodies. But when it comes to the Earth-walking dragon, which possesses the two top racial talents of Origin of the Earth and Earth-walker, these are no longer a problem. If you want to exhaust the power of the Earth Dragon, please first erase the ground it steps on. Or, that is to kill the earthly dragon with 5,500 HP at once, and then all talents and skills will be gone. If the power of level 1 cannot achieve an instant kill, then this combination is the power of level 1 BUG. In other words, which pure-blood dragon is not at the same level of BUG? These are only the Earth-type dragons in the most common elemental dragon series, those legendary space-time dragons, dream dragons, fairy dragons, and mystery dragons. It is an existence that is difficult to find in the entire infinite plane, and generally only exists in legends. If it were just like this, Eye of the Mayfly wouldn't feel such a headache. It had indeed found a way to crack it just now, and the price it had to pay was at most the death and injury of the flying Zerg under its hands. But the problem is, there is another bug-level power present that can release level 3 spells at any time. In particular, these two bugs exist. One is long-range spellcasting, the other is melee attack human shield, and they need to be matched very well. If you want to solve two level 1 bug-level abilities at the same time, it really can't do it. This is simply a rogue tactic. Eye of the Mayfly hesitated a little. As an advanced Zerg with a brain the size of a soybean, it has some wisdom, although not much. Faced with such an important decision, it also began to hesitate. Although there are only less than 10 people standing opposite at the moment, this extraordinary territory is really beyond its level 1 understanding. It's not that the human race doesn't have a powerful level 1 extraordinary territory. In that kind of extraordinary territory, there is a mage tower every 3 steps and an arrow tower every 5 steps. Moreover, the building mix of the entire extraordinary territory is also very diverse. Not only does it have the knights, recruit camp, to train territorial cavalry, as well as the druids, crystal cave, to produce star stones, the priests, clinic room, to cure diseases, and the entire extraordinary territory was densely covered with countless war buildings. A level 1 extraordinary city of that scale would make even a level 1 high-level Zerg want to take a detour when they see it. But, Eye of the Mayfly has never seen someone who has developed as sloppily as before, but can withstand 51 rounds. So, should we continue to conquer it? Eye of the Mayfly is a little hesitant. The Zerg pay attention to the merit system. If the high-level Zerg want to obtain the attribute point distribution, skill learning, and rank promotion given by the Brother's Nest, they all rely on merit. The source of these merits is naturally based on breakthroughs. How much extraordinary territory has been captured, how much life matter has been seized. The population and number of spiritual plants in this extraordinary territory are definitely the best among Tier 1 extraordinary territories. If you can command the Zerg under your command to devour them all, there must be many Zerg who can activate the talent of mutation plan. The merits of winning this battle plus some of the previous merits, even if its merits have not been able to officially help it advance to the second level, it is definitely not far behind. Eye of the Mayfly quickly made the decision to do it. Since these two bugs cannot be solved, then just don't solve them. Maybe it really can't defeat these two existences, but it can also cause maximum damage to the enemy. Anyway, the earth-moving dragon cannot fly and cannot threaten itself. It only needs to pay more attention to the woman who can release powerful spells. Even if it really can't be defeated, it can retreat at any time. Considering that it has the ability to fly, it can still escape easily. Thoughts were racing. Eye of the Mayfly finally decided to take the plunge. The purpose of pressing all the Zerg regiments is to attack the thousands of first-order spiritual plants, pea shooters, and the nearly 100 immobile humanoid life substances in the territory. It just focuses on a eat-and-run strategy. As for the death of Yu Yi, who was protected by masters, it didn't really care. Seeing that the Zerg completely ignored the little dragon cubs and started charging into the battle mode at the cost of a large number of casualties, Yu Ye's expression suddenly changed. The worst scene he had imagined in his plan appeared. When the enemy completely ignored Big Mac, and Wang Zhaojun was casting spells from behind, the shortcomings of Yu Ye's side were undoubtedly revealed, that is, there were too few manpower to take care of the entire extraordinary territory. Facing such a large number of Zerg, this is a natural disadvantage. If you want to defend the extraordinary territory behind you, a hand-to-hand battle is obviously inevitable. Looking at the Zerg who didn't care about the life and death of the Zerg around him and only thought about rushing forward, Yu Ye quickly retreated with Mu Zhong and others behind him, and chopped down a Fengli mantis that was trying to sprint over. Even if he doesn't know any attack skills, do you really think that his 13-point strength attribute is a joke? It may be difficult to defeat elite Zerg such as Crying Wings and Grouper, but to kill these blank slate Zerg, Yu Yi, who has 20 points of physical attributes, can kill them for a long time. Mu Zhong did not know when he had stopped in front of Yu Yi. A giant épée, also sponsored by Customs Clearance, was lying in front of him. His moves were wide open and closed, and he looked very cumbersome, but a huge sword that was as tall as a man was danced very lightly. With a single strike, dozens of insects were gently divided into two halves. Even the weevils are not a single enemy. Only the groupers can barely resist a few blows. Judging from Mu Zhong's effortless sword skills, although the extraordinary civilization in the Tianquan Plain has not developed extremely well, it still has some unique features of its own. It's a bit like the exquisite sword skills inherited from Chinese martial arts novels. It was the first time he showed his hand in front of Yu Yi. It was so handsome. Fan Shi and Gao Chao also used high-quality weapons. One was a sword and the other was a stick. One on the left and the other on the right, they stopped the large number of Zerg that were swarming forward and wanted to rush forward. The seemingly exquisite moves were used by the two of them, and they also achieved great results. Wu Lu and Song Anjia in the rear were fighting and retreating. One of them fired a few cold arrows from time to time, specifically targeting the toughest Zerg members to shoot at. Each time, one arrow hit the head, while the other fanned the flames, killing each one as big as a millstone. The fireballs are specially thrown at places with dense insect swarms. For a moment, Yu Yi seemed to be a completely fine person. He took advantage of every opportunity to send the big sword forward, then pulled it back, and easily harvested several heads. Then it pumped out again, and then pulled back again, like piercing through a candied hawse of sugar hawse, piercing through several zerg again. Yu Ye went back and forth and had a great time killing. This was thanks to the 3 second-order Mu Zhong, Fan Shi and Gao Chao who protected him so well. The insects tried their best to squeeze forward, but they were unable to take a step forward in front of the 3 people. They couldn't pass in front of them. The ones behind were squeezing hard again, becoming obstacles to each other, and then Yu Yi seemed to have a bug, and he easily completed rounds of harvesting. I don't know how many times I tried it, but the familiar feeling of a plain will gaze came over me, and a pleasant virtual electronic sound sounded. You have mastered the skill, string LV1. Do you understand this? Yu Ye himself was a little confused. The battle didn't seem to be difficult at all. Chapter 56 The Overlooked Fatal Blow. The entire Zerg army pressed forward, and the first ones to bear the brunt were the pea-shooters, on the outermost edge, especially at this moment when they were paralyzed on the ground without any resistance. Yu Ye and his group had tried their best to resist. The insects around them fell in pieces, but there were still crazy beings that were constantly rushing forward. At this moment, Yu Yi truly understood what 2 fists are difficult to defeat with 4 hands. This is probably the mentality that all the races that resist the Zerg will have in the end. At this time, he could only watch helplessly as several red beetles rushed towards a dead pea-shooter, and began to eat crazily. All he could do was to continue to eat mechanically, killing all the Zerg in front of him. You have understood, slanted cut LV1. You have understood, jump split LV1. They are 2 basic and common skills. After Yu Ye gained proficiency, they were recognized by plain will. However, Yu Yi had no time to be happy. He was always observing the movements on the battlefield and keenly felt that while the Eye of the Mayfly ordered a large-scale attack by the Zerg, the number of Zerg around him had obviously decreased. This is obviously a huge loophole that was inadvertently exposed after the opponent made the decision to press the entire army. Good opportunity. Yu Ye's eyes suddenly lit up. He had been looking for such an opportunity. As long as Ephemera I is killed, the Zerg without insect frequency synchronization will become a mess. And without the attenuation debuff aura of Spirit 5 present, the pea-shooters will also regain their fighting strength. By then, the dilemma they are facing will naturally be solved. Just rush there. Yu Ye roared and directed from behind. After Mu Zhong and the others received the order, they immediately stopped retreating. Instead, they turned into a sharp knife, splitting the battlefield, and headed straight towards the location of the Eye of the Mayfly. At the same time, the little dragon cub mixed in the center of the Zerg regiment suddenly turned around and rushed towards the Eye of the Mayfly again. Wang Zhaojun, who is in the rear, is also accumulating new frost spells. Although she has forgotten a lot of the past, her fighting intuition has always been very keen. From the beginning, it was clear that all her skills were directed towards Eye of the Mayfly. Throw it on your body. The aura when the spell was accumulated directly locked onto the Eye of the Mayfly. 3 different directions, 3 different forces, all aiming at the same place at the same time. Eye of the Mayfly? The locked Eye of the Mayfly was finally panicked. In its small brain capacity, it felt that it was commanding a large number of Zerg to attack Yu Ye's extraordinary territory, and that the opponent should return to defense. At this time, Yu Yi still chose to fight against himself. Could it be that he wanted to give up all the extraordinary buildings, spiritual plants, and population in those territories? Even if he wins this battle and the extraordinary territory, buildings, and population are all gone, isn't that a huge loss? It is precisely based on this consideration that it dares to boldly implement the Deet and Run strategy. But what it didn't expect was that humans also had a tactic called surrounding Wei and rescuing Zhao. Since Yu Ye couldn't defend his extraordinary territory, he simply didn't defend it. You, Ephemerai, dare to let the dragon cubs collide wantonly in your Zerg army, why doesn't he dare to empty his own territory first? If it were before the 50th round, those ordinary Zerg races without any thoughts would just head towards Yuya's extraordinary territory regardless of this time. For them, the life and death of their fellow racers is not important at all. The most important thing is to seize attribute values and life energy, gain the opportunity to mutate and evolve. It has to be said that this kind of Cold War machine, which is only encoded into genes, is extremely terrifying in a sense. If they really continue to attack regardless of the life or death of Eye of the Eye, then the damage caused to Yuya's extraordinary territory will also be devastating. But it is precisely because they are in the state of insect frequency synchrony at the moment, and there is a first-order high-level insect race with wisdom to collectively lead, then. At this moment, this limited wisdom is the biggest flaw. Eye of the Mayfly, after feeling Yuya's determination to kill him, he looked at the formation of the Zerg Corps that had been completely destroyed, and then looked at the few groupers and singing wings elites. The Zerg guards could not feel a sense of security. Whether it is the earthly dragon, several second-order ones, or the terrifying mage who has been hiding behind them, it is obviously not easy to deal with them. So, it screamed again, trying to call back the Zerg that had spread out to protect itself. Many Zerg that had begun to devour, pea-shooter, were forcibly restrained from their instinct to devour evolution, and began to turn around under the forced influence of insect frequency synchrony. However, the Zerg, which had long been out of formation, could not be as neat and uniform as it was at the beginning. Even the fast Zerg directly passed over the slow Zerg, causing a lot of casualties, and the entire battlefield suddenly became more chaotic. This time, the goddess of luck seemed to have no intention of favoring Yuya. Zhao Juan's randomly generated spell was just an ordinary level 1 ice arrow. As a single target damage spell, although its power is not bad, it is a bit of a dream to directly kill Eye of the Mayfly. Looking at the ice arrows that were shooting at him rapidly, Eye of the Eye suddenly became a high-frequency flapping of wings, easily replacing his real body with a phantom fake body, and the fake phantom looked like it's like a bubble that can be burst by an ice arrow. But the next second, a giant wind blade appeared silently in a phantom clone of Eye of the Mayfly. The wind blade shattered, and blades danced all over the sky, quickly completely shattering the phantom clone. The sudden arrival of the crisis caused the slender hairs all over the body of Ephemera's Eye to stand up. In the flash of lightning, it replaced itself into the last phantom clone, its one eye filled with incredulity. Who released the level 2 wind spell, Dance of Wind? A brief question flashed through its brain, but it was destined not to find the answer. Because a crimson ray suddenly shot out from a 3-story crimson mage tower in Yuya's extraordinary territory, directly piercing through the only remaining phantom eyes on the battlefield at extremely fast speeds. And this is the only real body among the 3 phantoms brought by high-frequency wing flapping. The small, ephemera eye was quickly melted by the high temperature and curled up. A faint black smoke emitted from the charred corpse. It trembled its wings slightly and seemed to want to struggle, but in the end it was unable to escape, falling in mid-air. These 2 sudden magic attacks naturally came from the Wind Arrow Tower and Red Flame Mage Tower that had been dormant for a long time. The ones who controlled them to use Wind Dance and Red Ray were undoubtedly Song Anjia and Wu Lu, who had disappeared for a long time. In Yuya's battle plan, the 2 of them retreated to the extraordinary building from the beginning to activate the 2 trump cards of Yuya's extraordinary territory. Sure enough, when Eye of the Mayfly focused all its attention on Wang Zhaojun, Xiao Longzai, Wu Zhong and others, Song Anjia and Wu Lu seized the opportunity and delivered a fatal blow that was ignored. These 2 level 2 spells that suddenly appeared became the key to sealing the victory. Note, the source of Wind Dance and Red Ray. Wind Arrow Tower. Newly added, 3 Gale arrows are equipped with wind-attributed star power magic patterns. When a total of 200 Gale arrows are shot on the local battlefield, a level 1 spell, Wind Blade, will be triggered. When a total of 500 arrows are shot on the local battlefield, when a gust of arrows is fired, a level 2 spell, Wind Dance, will be triggered. When a total of 1000 gusts of arrows are fired on the local battlefield, a level 2 spell, Howling Wind, will be triggered. Red Flame Mage Tower. New, 3 Red Flame Mage Towers can enter the Overload state and activate multiple star stones at one time. Exciting 3 star stones at the same time can activate Crimson Ray, stimulating 5 star stones at the same time can activate Fire Continuous Shot, and stimulating 10 star stones at the same time can activate Explosive Fireball. Chapter 57 Shocked. Yuyi actually became. The halo effect of Spirit 5 disappeared with the death of Eye of the Eye. Yuya only felt an invisible shackle being removed from his brain, and his whole person suddenly became relaxed and comfortable. All the irritating and distracting thoughts were swept away. The situation on the entire battlefield gradually stabilized. The wilted pea shooters all regained their momentum, and the muzzle of the gun blew the horn of counterattack. Without the ephemera eye, most of the Zerg naturally fell into chaos, and were defeated by the joint efforts of Wang Zhaojun, Xiao Longzai, Mu Zhong, etc., and the 50-round battle was quickly ended. Should we start the 52nd wave of offensive? Looking at the Dawn System virtual panel that popped up in front of him again, Yuya clicked Reject without even thinking about it. Didn't you see that a level 1 high-level Zerg came and almost wiped out the entire territory? It's not that Yuya's territory is not strong, but the war between the Klein Plain and the Zerg came too suddenly, and the Blue Star people's time to build an extraordinary territory was too short. It is incredible to be able to reach the 51st wave and compete with some local Tier 1 pioneers. In fact, this wave is indeed very suspenseful. The skill combination of the advanced Zerg produced by Insect Nest is quite reasonable. Advanced Zerg with aura-type skills such as Eye of the Eye will naturally be keenly attacked by the enemy once they appear on the battlefield. In addition, its physical attributes are not high, so it can easily be dropped instantly if you are not careful. Therefore, the skill evolution branch given to Ephemera Eye by Gene Tree, whether it is the 3 phantom clones of high-frequency wing beat or the skill deflection of mental disturbance, are all very effective life-saving skills. If it weren't for the emergence of higher-level power in Yuya's first-level territory, otherwise the appearance of Eye of the Mayfly would actually be considered a relatively buggy existence. The reason why mental disturbance does not take effect is simply because Wang Zhaojun's mental value always crushes Eye of the Mayfly, and the 2 spells that caused the fatal blow are both level 2, not level 1 either. The mental disturbance can be manipulated. According to the old method of local Tier 1 pioneers, the most mainstream way to eliminate such an advanced Zerg is to use extraordinary buildings to consume a large number of Zerg at the beginning, and then send out sharp knife troops to perform beheading operations. And if you want to fight head-on with tens of thousands of Zerg who are well organized in the insect frequency synchronization state, whether it is the consumption of star stones or the number of extraordinary buildings, you have to reach an extremely terrifying level. No matter what, the first offensive and defensive battle in Another World ended with the victory of Yuno territory. After carefully counting the losses in this battle, in fact, they only lost nearly 100 pea shooter plants and some star stones. As for the people in the territory, although they suddenly received a certain impact due to Spirit 5, Wailing Howl is not really an offensive skill like Psychic Shock, after all. When Eye of the Mayfly dies, all the people in the area woke up slowly. At most, they were just a little mentally weakened and needed a period of rest. They did not really suffer any fatal injuries. Looking at the entire battle, Yuya himself suffered the most losses. Are the people in the entire group just animals? He looked at his remaining 3-digit gold coin deposit and sighed deeply. This time, he was back before liberation in 1 day. This was because of his actions of collecting a large number of star stones, which caused the entire group of players to go crazy. As for the star stones that Yuya had always thought were not enough, even though so many extraordinary buildings were constantly consuming them, tens of thousands of units were still saved. Is this what a group of 496 animals work together to achieve in just half a day? Sure enough, when money is involved, people can burst out with endless motivation. Looking at the New Year-like scene in the group, almost everyone made thousands of gold coins, and those who owed money used this wave to pay off Yuya's debts. Those who had no debt looked at the gold coins in their hands, and couldn't help but go to Shuguang Mall for a shopping spree. It's also his fault that Yu Yi didn't estimate the number of star stones he needed, otherwise he wouldn't have let the system automatically acquire so many star stones. All of a sudden, his 3-digit deposit turned out to be the bottom one. However, there is a small episode here. That is, during the transaction process of the Shuguang system, the group treasurer, silly and naive, actually spent a lot of money and purchased a batch of 10,000 units from Yu Yi at a low price that had exhausted the star power and had no value. Waste rock. At first, Yu Yi couldn't figure out what kind of aircraft this guy was planning to build, but since it was in the middle of an offensive and defensive battle, he didn't have time to think too much, so he let the Dawn system conduct this wave of transactions on its own. Soon, very silly and naive, sent out a transaction application again, which shocked Yu Yi. He actually submitted 5,000 units of star stone resources at once, and took away a lot from Yu Yi. Money. Only then did Yu Yi realize that, very silly and naive, did not lie on the public screen. He really had an S-level talent, waste utilization. Waste utilization, S. When a production material is used, you can consume all your own star power to restore 50% of the material through the residues, fragments, etc. of the material. The greater the amount of materials restored, the longer the cooldown time of this talent will be. Currently this talent is only effective for production materials below level 3. Good guy. Yuno was shocked just by looking at this introduction. No wonder this, silly and naive, person wants to purchase waste rock from himself. It turns out that this is the raw material for him to activate his own talent. This talent, rated S level by the Dawn system, is indeed very powerful. Sure enough, there are so many blue star people, and there are such crouching tigers, hidden dragons in their own group, let alone on the scale of the entire infinite plane. Yu Yi sighed secretly. His talent was not bad, but it was unstable. The upper and lower limits could reach ridiculous levels. However, thanks to Yu Yi's inherent luck of 9 points, he has not yet seen any outrageous extraordinary buildings among the first-level mutated buildings. But at a higher level, these 9 points of luck are not enough. What if there are some buildings with deceptive effects, such as a bulletin board that attracts owls that climb trees every day? Yu Yi shivered, shook his head, and quickly shook this terrible thought out of his mind. But not to mention anything else, as a level 1 warrior, very stupid and naive, he was able to restore 5,000 units of star stone resources by consuming his meager star power. Isn't this ability not strong? You know, Wang Xiaojun releases a level 3 spell that only costs 100 star stones. At this moment, very silly and naive, was proudly showing off in the group, actually, I can recover more, but in that case, the cooldown time of my skills will be too long. Cute-faced thief, after you restore 5,000 units of star stones, how long is the current cooldown? Very silly and naive, no more, no more. Only about a month and a half. No wonder he was so proud. After his calculations this time, he alone collected at least 100,000 gold coins from Yu Yi. If nothing else happens, he is the person with the largest number of gold coins in this group at this time. Why are you still dazed at this time? Hurry up and pretend to be a wall. When the first wave of offensive and defensive battles around Klein's Plain ended, the rewards of the Dawn system were released, and Yu Yi received a large number of rewards. Wouldn't the title of the first person in this short-lived group have to be changed again? Sure enough, he got carried away with himself and began to have a problem with his mouth again, and began to write some little compositions, in a whiny voice. Very silly and naive, shocked. In just a few days, a giant of the past generation became a younger brother in the group. Is this a distortion of human nature or a loss of morals? Please tell me next. Listen to me carefully. Chapter 58. Do you want to say it again? Looking at the crouching dragon in the group, Yu Yi couldn't help but stroke his head. After a little contact before, Yu Yi also had a little understanding of this young man who delivered 5,000 units at a time today. This ID is called, very silly and naive. Before time travel, he was a rich second generation who was not social, had few friends, was lonely but was extremely wealthy. On weekdays, when no one wants to play with him, he likes to spend money on the internet and indulge in the virtual world. He especially likes to make friends in games. Little did he know that the friends he made in this way also liked to call him SB behind his back. Since such things were exposed by him several times, he officially changed his game ID to Very Silly and Naive. This also allowed him to develop the habit of never being indifferent to others and always acting as a new generation of keyboard warrior on the internet. In reality, being submissive and being aggressive in the internet are the silly and naive internet rules. Perhaps this is because he has been deceived too many times, has become completely rebellious, and has a completely dark psychology. After having such a heart-to-heart talk, although Yi didn't have any big changes towards him, he was not as hostile as at the beginning, especially since his S-level talent of waste utilization is indeed very useful. In the future, maybe there's still a place for him. Therefore, when he saw that, very stupid and naive, had made the bad habit of talking in the group again, Yuya was too lazy to pay attention to him and was about to exit the group chat interface. The familiar illusory electronic sound of Shuguang's system sounded. Bob's today's special tune, Amber Tears, tear-jerking version, is now online. Byte. Tears of Amber, tear-jerker version, has been put on the shelves in all planes of the 5 nearby time and space nodes, and 2,989 customers have bid for it. Based on the highest bidder's offer. This transaction was successful. You have obtained 3358000 gold coins. Yuya was stunned, and he finally realized that he had been busy with offensive and defensive battles today, and he didn't even notice that today's daily special was only now available for sale. And this time, Tears of Amber, I just don't know why it is, tear-jerking version. Could it be because after Bob saw the territorial attack and defense war break out this time, he saw hundreds of pea-shooters died tragically at the hands of the Zerg, and he suddenly felt sad and felt something in his heart. In this state of mind, he mixed drinks and finally did you get this, Tears of Amber, tear-jerking version? Yuno has not forgotten that Bob is a great bartender. Perhaps this, tear-jerking version, Amber Tears, is just an attempt and will be the beginning of a new type of wine for him in the future? But this is not the main point that Yuya should be thinking about at this moment, because Yuya does not need to think about the familiar number 3358000. This is definitely the result of the wealthy customer who shot Tears of Amber several times in a row. Obviously, the boss had a grudge about being snatched away by the Angel Clan's wonder-building drawings in the last bidding, so this time he added an extra 2 million gold coins to the bidding. This is so simple. The boss is so proud to take action. Yi, who was originally prepared to hold his wallet in despair, suddenly became hardened after receiving such a huge sum of money, and his temper naturally grew louder. Naturally, he could no longer restrain his desire to put up a wall. Seeing, Very Silly and Naive, still chattering and showing off in the group, another familiar screenshot was immediately posted in the group. Yi, who had just spent 2 million gold coins, once again released a screenshot of his 3 million deposit, and undoubtedly gained another, quiet as a chicken, atmosphere. Ikuya Hano, at, Very Silly and Naive, I didn't quite hear what you just said, why don't you repeat it again? Pick your ears. Very Silly and Naive, brother, I made a mistake, please forgive me. Crying bitterly, change your past mistakes, renew your life. Below him, your wife leaked air in the middle of the night, as his mortal enemy, laughed mercilessly and wantonly. The happiness of the whole group today seems to be given by the group treasures. Although everyone in Yuno's group has completed the round of resistance, some extraordinary territories in Klein's plane have not yet ended. In the second half of the process, those cyber princesses and cyber princes, when they really show their talents. Of course, there are also very few players among the blue stars who are still fighting. They may not all reach very high rounds, but they are definitely the kind of extraordinary lords who are very ink-stained, and want to grind their opponents to death little by little with their own territory or talent. Before their battle is completely over, the Dawn system will not settle the matter. Just when Yi thought that this long day was finally over, another troublesome thing happened to him. That is, the NPC Dave, who has been staying at the farm for a long time, actually walked out of his farm cabin for the first time. With his hands behind his back and a dark face, he walked through the sword-thorn fence, with low pressure. The members of the growers and patrol team on the side all huddled aside fearfully, not daring to stop him at all. After several days of running in, the slaves probably knew some of the hidden rules of the entire extraordinary territory. In this small extraordinary territory, in addition to the Supreme Lord, there is another type of person who cannot be messed with. That is the person who can monopolize an entire extraordinary building. According to reliable gossip from a certain commander, even the Lord cannot force these mysterious beings called NPCs to do something. This puts these NPCs in a naturally more distinguished position. If anything, the origins of these people are awe-inspiring. Then their abilities are really impressive. In today's offensive and defensive battle, both Dave's, pea-shooters, and the lady living in the tower made huge contributions to the territory. Therefore, when Dave got up in the middle of the night, walked out of the planting hut, and wanted to leave the territory, the patrol team and the growers were naturally frightened to death. Although the Zerg were defeated, there were still many Zerg circulating around the extraordinary territory and had not been killed by Teruto. If top technical talents like Dave leave the territory and are killed by insects, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Understanding the worries of the territorial patrol, Yuya's curiosity couldn't help but arouse. After some thinking, he decided to see for himself what this NPC wanted to do. Without the obstruction of the patrol, Dave finally pushed open the door of the territory and walked into the dark night alone. Chapter 59. Your bulletin board status has been updated. Yu Yi and Mu Zhong watched Dave walk into the night and followed him quietly. I saw this white NPC wearing a peaked cap and a white vest walking step by step to the perimeter of the territory. Especially when he stood still for a long time in the area where, pea-shooter, was eaten by the Zerg, Yu Yi. Suddenly I felt a little guilty. Pea-shooter itself is a spiritual plant that does not exist in the boundless plane world. It appears together with the NPC Dave. From this point of view, these spiritual plants were actually created by Dave. Seeing that your hard work was wasted by the Zerg like this, a person might feel angry. A chill suddenly ran down Yuye's spine. He seemed to have seen Dave coming to him angrily and loudly accusing him of not protecting these pea-shooters. Fortunately, the scene in this fantasy did not happen. Dave silently observed the corpses of these spiritual plants with his hands behind his back for a long time, and then a spade plant appeared from nowhere and continued to walk towards the outskirts of the territory. That side was already a bit far away from Yuye's extraordinary territory, and even if the light shone there, it was pitch black. There, it was the main battlefield of this offensive and defensive battle. A large number of insect corpses of different races were soaked in the ice and snow that had begun to melt. It was like a scene like purgatory on Earth. Dave, on the other hand, kept his face calm, as if he was a normal person, picking and choosing among the various broken limbs, and even used the small shovel he carried with him to dig here and pry there. Yu Yi and Mu Zhong looked at each other and shuddered involuntarily. This Dave, maybe he still wants to whip the corpse to relieve his hatred, right? The two of them were hiding behind a certain tree, observing each other's every move. Speaking of which, this was not the first time that Yuya had spied on Dave like this. If he did it again this time, he felt a little familiar. After sorting for a long time, Dave, who was picking up rubbish on the battlefield, stopped what he was doing, and he made a bamboo basket out of nowhere and put the corpse, body, he picked up in the bamboo basket, and then set off back to the house. Damn, this guy stayed up late at night and came out to pick up trash. Yu Yi and Mu Zhong suddenly looked at each other. But since nothing happened to Dave, Yuya quickly put the matter behind him and returned to his villa-style, lord's cottage, for a good sleep. The next day, Yuya was woken up by a burst of joyous shouting. He walked out of the door and opened the window, and saw Mu Zhong and Gao Chao happily carrying a long wooden stick like a carrying pole, carrying a fat wild boar into the inner circle. What are you doing? The two of them got up early and went hunting. Seeing his little lord looking this way, Gao Chao suddenly shouted with a loud voice, "Lord! Do you see what we found? A wild boar? Hey! I don't know if this wild boar was blinded by lard. It ran straight into our sword-thorn fence, early in the morning. It looked like it would not give up until it passed through the wall. The result was a sudden death. He fainted from the pain caused by the sword thorn." A few clever slaves caught it immediately and dedicated it to the Lord. I didn't expect that there is such a thing as pie in the sky in this world. This must be the good luck brought by you, Lord. At the end of the speech, Gao Chao even flattered him with a shy face. And listening to Gao Chao's narration, Yi suddenly realized what a good thing it was. This is obviously the function of my own extraordinary building. Time flies quite quickly. Today is the 7th day of the sudden change in the pig waiting bulletin board. But Gao Chao was right about one thing. If Yi hadn't mutated the ordinary bulletin board, he wouldn't have had the beautiful thing of having a rabbit every day and a pig every 7 days. Your notice board status has been updated. Do you want to check it? Yi raised his eyebrows. Besides this wild boar, could it bring any other surprises? He clicked on the virtual panel and clicked on the waiting for announcements status, only to see 2 new pieces of information appear on the originally empty bulletin board panel. Territory Event 1, Farmer Dave released a large number of resource task chains to collect Zerg corpses. First round, please collect 100 red beetle corpses, 100 purple-bellied ringworm corpses, 100 weevil corpses, and 100 fungly mantis corpses. Current progress, 0%. For the number of corpses collected by slaves, the plantation farmer will automatically issue a certain amount of territory contribution value. This contribution value will help the slaves truly become citizens of the extraordinary territory. Note, if enough corpses are collected, new mysterious seed rewards will be unlocked. All slaves in the territory are invited to sign up and participate. Territory contribution value? When did he announce such a system? Yi was a little confused. He had said before that if someone mastered many skills, he could officially become a citizen of the extraordinary territory and live in the same private house as the commanders. Was this concept put forward hastily at that time? Yi couldn't remember clearly, but he was a little surprised by Dave's initiative to release tasks and reward contribution points. Not only was he surprised that these NPCs seemed to have the same brain as him and could help him manage his extraordinary territory independently, but he was also surprised by Dave's purpose of collecting these Zerg corpses. According to the building description, Dave has the authority to manage the extraordinary building, Dave's planting farm. Even Yuya, as the Lord, cannot interfere with some of the decisions of NPCs at will. Otherwise, couldn't Yuya force Bob to make 1 ton of amber tears every day? This is obviously unrealistic. In other words, if the logic of Dave's behavior conforms to the description, then his purpose of collecting insect corpses is related to the farm? Is this to be used to develop chemical fertilizers to enhance the growth rate of spiritual plants, or to learn from the Zerg's evolutionary capabilities to improve the attribute values of these spiritual plants, pea shooter, or to simply develop new insect-killing spiritual plants? Thinking of the Dave he saw last night, who was picking and choosing on the battlefield with an expressionless expression like a cold-faced killer, Yuya suddenly felt that all 3 of the above might be possible. In fact, according to the time and space teleportation rules of the Dawn system, after the offensive and defensive battle, if the human territory is defeated, the remaining Zerg that have not been killed will be teleported back to the battlefield. If the Zerg are wiped out, then the corpses of the Zerg will also be within the scope of transmission and processing by the Dawn system, which can also be regarded as reducing the workload of cleaning up the extraordinary territory. However, since these corpses were deemed useful by Dave, Yuya had to collect them as much as possible before transmitting garbage to the Shuguang system. This is why Dave issues tasks. Then, Yi lowered his gaze and shifted his attention to the second message. Territory Event 2, Wang Xiaojun awakened the lost talent, Frozen Heart, embarked on the road of hero again, and asked everyone in the territory to help her regain her strength faster. The hero's path: please plant a large number of spiritual plants in the extraordinary territory to attract the settlement of the elves. Reward: Elf Princess Wang Xiaojun. Chapter 61 4.0.1 Version Update. Elf Princess Wang Xiaojun. Yuno was shocked by this reward. This is a companion skin for the hero Wang Xiaojun in the Blue Star game, King of Glory. If Wang Xiaojun's heroic road is opened little by little with the power of these skins, doesn't it mean that he may be able to harvest Idol Singer, Afternoon Time, Fantasy Night, Phoenix Flying, in the future, Voice of the Stars, and other skins? So if these skins are divided according to quality, can they be divided into normal, brave, epic, legend, glory collection and other levels like blue star? This is somewhat similar to the quality of extraordinary architecture. According to the architectural quality of the infinite plane, it can generally be divided into 8 grades, namely ordinary, excellent, brave, mystical, sacred, epic, glorious and legendary. Within the same level, extraordinary buildings of different qualities can have vastly different abilities. However, the wondered drawing of the angel clan, Himtianchi, that Ikuno once harvested does not belong to the category of ordinary buildings. As a special building with uniqueness, the wonders of the world can be classified as above the legend, if forced to summarize. 9th grade. But in fact, this kind of wonder building itself has its own set of star ratings. The wonder building is so weak that it is not even comparable to some legends, but it is so strong that it has unique abilities and is the dream of countless races. But Wang Xiaojun himself is an NPC brought about by the mutation of the legendary building. Now the NPC has a skin. So if it is Wang Xiaojun in the legendary state, how should the legendary building be counted? Could it be that it is still a double legend? Before seeing Elf Princess Wang Xiaojun with his own eyes, Yuya couldn't figure out what was going on. There is another question, that is, Wang Xiaojun has not released a skin of the Glory Collection level before Blue Star Crossing? If Yuya mutates other buildings in the future and summons other king NPCs, doesn't that mean that Wang Xiaojun is naturally better than those who have do the heroes in the Glory Collection have a lower power limit? Imagine Wu Zetian's, Nyx Oracle, which may directly trigger the grand scene of the birth of a plane-level planet, but Wang Xiaojun's upper limit is only a small legend. I would like to ask the majority of players who take Xiaojun as their destiny to agree with this kind of thing. Not to mention that they don't agree, Yi won't agree either. However, it is too early to talk about this now. After all, even Dave is ready to start researching insect-killing spiritual plants. Not to mention Wang Xiaojun, it is reasonable for the head of a skinless village to also produce a glory collection, right? The top priority now is to earn new clothes for the little sister. Who cannot love the green Wang Xiaojun? But it is not easy to earn this new piece of clothing. According to the information published on the Dawn system, there are 2 main types of elves in the Boundless Plane. One is the race of great elves that are similar in size to humans. It is said that they are blessed by the World Tree. The first generation of elves are the Elf King was born from the World Tree. The second is the elves. They are born among all things in nature, and spiritual plants are the main source of their birth. A few are also born in places such as light sources, soil, and wind eyes. They usually only appear in places with strong natural atmosphere. Place. Therefore, spiritual plants, which attract a large amount of natural breath and star power, are their favorite. However, in reality, not all spiritual plants can give birth to elves, and there are certain harsh conditions for their birth. Because of their small size, only as big as a human palm, they are often called goblins by humans. The births of elves and goblins are very similar, and their names are also very similar, so these 2 races are often confused. There is a saying that elves are actually a type of goblin, but the spiritual plant that gave birth to them, the World Tree, is too powerful, so their size becomes the same as that of ordinary people. It's just that the elves have always had a negative attitude toward such a statement, but what is very ambiguous is that they have never objected to seeing the World Tree as the birth source of their own race, which makes people think a lot. But in any case, it is still difficult to give birth to a fairy clan in Yuya's extraordinary territory. Even the most common fairies in human territories, spirit rice fairies, often require the cultivation of a large amount of spiritual rice to have a chance. Fairies with related spiritual plants will be born. However, this also gave Yi a kind of association. What would happen if a goblin was born through the mysterious spiritual plant Dave researched? Is it possible to compare with Eye of the Mayfly, a first-level advanced insect race, to command the existence of spiritual plants of the same level? Thinking of this, Yuya couldn't help but start to look forward to it. After waiting for more than half a day, all the first-level extraordinary territories in the 5 time-space nodes near Klein's Plane finally ended their battles. With it, Not only did everyone look forward to the ranking list, but also the first patch update of Dawn System version 14.0, new human observation record. Shuguang System 14.0.1 partial patch update announcement. In view of the fact that some groups in this mission are too small, the groups will be merged until each group reaches 500 people again. Patch Update 1, Skill Tree System. The Extraordinary Professional Skill Tree System is open to all Blue Star humans. This system includes all extraordinary professions that have appeared in the Human Alliance. Note, the Human Alliance is mainly based on 12 basic extraordinary professions, supplemented by many niche extraordinary professions. If Blue Star people want to create a new extraordinary profession, they can also make a bold attempt. List of 12 basic occupations. Warrior, Mage, Knight, Priest, Hunter, Warlock, Rogue, Shaman, Druid, Mechanic, Summoner, Demon Hunter. Patch Update 2, Mall Permissions Open. In view of the fact that at least 100 Blue Star players in the Human Alliance have broken through to level 2. Open the permission to sell some second-level extraordinary architectural drawings and scrolls in Dawn Mall. Note, some extraordinary buildings can only be built by special professions. If the Lord wants to use them, he can only purchase the finished scrolls and hire extraordinary talents of the corresponding professions to use them. Patch Update 3, Plane Investment Plan. The live broadcast system is officially open to all Blue Star players, and players can choose whether to participate in the live broadcast. After passing 30 rounds of the basic traffic pool, Blue Star anchors can officially get the contract invitation. After signing the contract, the Blue Star anchor can show the construction status of his extraordinary territory and obtain 7 rewards from the Human League by receiving gifts, investing, crowdfunding, selling land, attracting investment, etc. Funds from various planes are under the control of major forces to speed up the construction of your extraordinary territory. Note, plane lords can also make plans for the development of their own planes and publish them to the 7 major forces of the Human Alliance through the Dawn system. If investors are interested, they can also receive angel investment to accelerate the development of the planes. Patch Update 4, Open Ranking System. From now on, the war list will be opened based on the resistance rounds of extraordinary territories at each level. Its branches include, Highest Resistance Rounds List, Beyond Rounds List, Local Pioneers Resistance Rounds List, Blue Star Trailblazers Resistance Round List, etc. At the same time, the Territory Construction Index list will be opened, which includes, Prosperity List, Scientific Research Contribution List, Tourism List, and other lists. Those on the list will receive corresponding rewards. Note, the Territory Construction Index list is a comprehensive list that combines various factors such as territory population, environmental sanitation, comfort, religion and culture, medical education, war buildings, etc. It is calculated in each group every 7 days. The top 10 on each list will receive a resource treasure box. Settlement will be conducted monthly in the region, and the top 1,000 on each list will receive a resource treasure box. Announcement completed. Official update now. You are listening to it in Eugene Light Novels.